Hey kids, it's time to get some SML podcast all up in that.
What's up, everybody? This is the SML Podcast. I am your host, Joe. Joining as usual, Cole. How are you doing?
I'm not dead. Little
Yay.
Victories. It's 2020. We take what we can get.
Yeah, you do. Might be some more victories soon, but until then, it is PartyCast, which means Pernell and Chris are both here. How are you guys doing?
I'm drinking
dead.
coffee.
I'm dead, so spooky.
Well, I'm glad the ghost of Chris could be on to join us today.
Very punctual ghost.
Tell us, what is your favorite, mana drink there?
What?
I don't know. What did ghosts drink? Mana? Some energy shit, soul fluid.
Anyway, we have a guest joining us. It's a special party cast. We're not going to go down that road. I don't know where the fuck that's going. Returning to the show, David Ventura of Ichigoichie. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine, thank you.
Welcome back to the show. What made you want to come back, first of all? Why?
You guys are such a loving, caring bunch, and I just love hanging out with you guys.
Oh, see, he's all right with me.
Yeah. Anyway,
I don't know.
you didn't meet Chris before.
Suspect.
So Chris, David, Chris.
Hi.
What's up?
Not much.
What the hell is
He's
that?
just anticipating an illegal transaction. It's fine.
Yeah. About to sell some chairs, y'all. I'm a little nervous.
Don't care. It's on the show now. It's part of the deal.
Chairs and cocaine, whatever.
Just
Where
a
else is it
normal
going to sit
Sunday.
on, huh?
Really expensive chairs. What's your chair? $7,000. What?
Trust me, it's worth it.
Yes, I'm giving you quite the bargain. Your butt will be very satisfied with this transaction.
David's sitting over there making a note never to come back.
Or never to buy chairs from Chris.
Yeah.
There it is.
Or always buy chairs for Chris.
Cripes on a bike.
Oh, man. So anyway, David, last time you were on the show, you were here to chat about your game Hexagroove. For the people who don't know what the game is or didn't catch the last episode you were on, give us a quick sales pitch on what Hexagroove is.
Yeah, so Hexagroove is a unique kind of creative strategy game where it's based around the principles of music, and you get to play as a DJ, combining pieces of music in real time to make your own music. And if you follow the rules of music well, strategically, then you get a great score. And if you don't, you still have pretty good music. So yeah, it's a way to like learn a new way to express yourself creatively and do some rhythm gaming and some strategy at the same time.
And it is an awesome game. And if you want to hear more about the actual game, go back to the last episode that he was on and check that one out. But for now, tell us a bit about how Hexagroove has been doing. I hear that there's been some news for the game.
Yeah, there's actually a lot going on this fall. So the Steam Autumn Festival starts actually this week on Wednesday, and we're a part of that. So we're bringing our game to Steam. Now we've got it on Xbox and Switch, and we're also going to be on Steam for PC. So we're going to be in that. We're going to do some streaming, and we have a new demo. We're adding some new content. We're really excited about that. And then on top of that, we've been nominated for IndieCade, which is the International Independent Games Festival. We have a nomination for Spotlight in Audio and also for the Jury Grand Prix.
Ooh.
That's at the end of the month. So we're really excited about that. And I'll be joining some talks at IndieCade and also doing some sessions as a chair, paneling a session. We got our fingers crossed for that. But we're really, really honored just to get nominated.
Is it all virtual this year?
Yeah, exactly. It's all online this year.
Well, one thing's for sure, it'll deserve their awards. Whatever awards it gets, it will deserve them because it is a quality product.
Well, thank you. That's very nice of you to say.
Yeah, so it's coming to Steam, hitting the Autumn Festival. What is the Autumn Festival? Is that just like the launch sale or?
Yeah, so Steam has seasonal like events where they highlight games that are coming soon. So you can do one a year, and if your game is coming out from the middle of October to through the winter, you can participate in this. And all the games that are coming out soon will have their new demos just for this, and we'll be doing streaming and add-ons and things like that. So it's a chance for people to get familiar with the game before we launch. Right now, where you can wishlist us, our page is live, but the demo isn't live yet on Steam.
Any idea when that'll be around?
Yeah, I think that's going to fall in the next couple of days, actually, because the festival starts Wednesday. So we'll have something up in the next 72 hours.
Well, this show, I think, comes out on Wednesday. So, hey, win-win for everyone.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah. Check the Steam page now, damn it. In the links below, you could just go click and we'll wait. Go ahead. Anyway, now that you've gone and checked out the Steam page for Hexagroove and checked out the demo, what did you think of it? Was it fun? Cole, what did you think of it?
I thought it was a good time, but it was incredibly difficult for somebody like me with no musical ability whatsoever.
That's fair. Yeah.
I was literally the worst person in this podcast to ask that question.
I know. That's why I asked you.
You are a bitch.
But you said your daughter was pretty good at it, though, right?
She is killer at it. She is fantastic. Me, not so much. And she's not here, so I'm fucked.
It just means that the next party, she's DJing.
Has she been keeping up with the game since the last episode?
No, because she's in the middle of midterm hell right now.
Sorry. That sucks.
Aren't we all?
She has the pre-SAT and the ACT coming up in the next 2 weeks, too. So.
Oh, wow.
She's busy right now.
Chris, you haven't had any hands-on time with the game, but what are your thoughts on the game that you're hearing so far? Is this something that you're interested in?
Yeah, it looks good. I mean, I always like a rhythm game. Well, not like, rhythm specifically, but I guess games that incorporate this kind of music reminds me of Tetrisphere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that.
Tetrisphere, that's an interesting comparison.
Well, that's like the first game that I ever played that straight up had like an electronic kind of like soundtrack,
I can see that.
And I was
you'll be controlling it.
Yeah, exactly. Like when I was like listening to the songs and stuff, that's kind of what I was getting from it. But yeah, I like the quality tunes, and I'm all about the quality tunes, so can't be bad.
I mean, it gets you spotlight and audio at IndieCade.
Yeah, there you go. I know what those are.
So we will be pulling for you there. I'll be honest, you gave us a huge list of conversations to talk about. I want to be upfront about that because you did a lot of work putting time into making a list. These are really good questions. And that leads to point number 2. If we read these, people would think we were full of shit and cheating. So, because there's some legit good questions in here, and we wouldn't think of that.
Sometimes I ask good questions.
Sometimes, come on.
Like when I'm very heavily medicated.
You read the list, Cole. Let's be real.
For the record, there's nothing wrong with that list. I mean, if anything, it just keeps the conversation on point. The dialogue is the magic. And he's got a lot to talk about related to the topics, which means it also gives him a means of which to focus his thoughts.
It does.
So I think that the fact that he gave us that list is a beautiful thing because any tangents I make will be one that's relevant to the bullet point.
Yes, and the reason I brought it up because I didn't have a segue to go from what we were talking about to the fact that you're going to be doing an achievement stream with Timber through Xbox.
That's right. Yeah, we're doing another content refresh right now. So we're remodeling all of our clubs, and we're adding, funkier animations in there, more background stuff, and just really sprucing everything up. And in addition to that, I want to show that off and then do an achievement run with Timber, just like you said. There's 30 achievements in the Xbox version. A lot of them are really wacky. There's lots of in references to movies and things like that. And I can't wait to share those with people and tell them how to get them.
Wait, so an achievement run, the premise is that you play the game and get every achievement in one play session?
I don't think we'll be able to get all of them, but we'll probably highlight some of the wackier ones, or maybe some of the ones that might be a bit harder to understand, or just that we want to give gamers help with.
Okay. And any teasers you could give us that people could look forward to during the stream? Like what really tough achievement are you going to show off?
I don't know about a tough one, but I can tell you the last achievement that we made when we were coming up with the whole list. The last one was called "If You Can Dodge a Wrench." And does anybody get that reference?
Oh, of course.
Yes.
Everyone here should, I hope.
So in the game, there's...
What? Yes.
Okay, so everyone gets it.
Goodness.
Chris.
That out of touch.
There's a beach ball that you have to dodge. That you have to juggle, sometimes in the game. Like when there's nothing else to do and you're juggling the beach ball in the crowd. But if you intentionally ignore the beach ball more than 7 times over an entire song, then you get the "If You Can Dodge a Wrench" achievement.
Huh. I didn't think about it. I guess that just goes to show that I've never played a session and at any point thought I should just not even bother with the ball. Because when the ball drops, I need to whack it. That's just how it goes.
You got to get that score up. Or you got to get the counter up and want to stop. I mean, that's the party right there. Bouncing the ball.
I think it's kind of funny how that previous episode, David flat out states that's just there for something to do. There's, aside from the achievement, there's no score related to it, and I'm still like, must hit ball when I see it. I can't
It's very
help
pleasurable when you get it, yeah.
It's like it's just that boop, boop, boop. So I'm all for it.
It keeps you engaged while the music is playing and while you're waiting for the crowd to be like, I want to hear something different. So
you know what? I think there you go. There's an idea. There's an expansion thing right there for your next update. You just got to put like a nasally voice guy in the crowd, like change the song, just like at a certain point, just make them say it. It would be perfect.
I think in the last episode, I heard Joe had like a soundboard or something, like hell yeah or fucking yeah or something like that. Maybe
Pernell, what do you think about that?
Fucking yeah! Change the song. Crazy mess.
So maybe Pernell, I can get you to shout like the ball has no point or something like that. Just every time that you bounce it more than like 100 times, you come in and can play that sound effect.
Hey, that would be funny enough for me right there. I gotta be able to do the nasally voice thing now. I gotta do that. Why are you doing this?
Why are you still hitting the ball?
There's no score.
You're wasting your life. What are you doing?
I get to always see that mess too, because there's always that one guy's like, I'm enjoying my game. I'm having a lot of fun with this. And there's the one guy's like, well, actually, you're not even doing anything when you perform that measure. So you're just wasting your effort and your time.
You have to animate a character coming out of the crowd and going on stage and like yelling this stuff like, why are you doing this? You're wasting your life. You have better things to do than bounce a ball.
I'm like,
play the damn game.
Oh my god! But I do like Easter egg bugs, things like that, where it's like, hey, just gonna pop this ball around. But when you just throw an extra layer in there, this amplifies the hilarity that comes from it. So just say, I'm giving endorsement right now for the 1 millionth chance that this happens. Like, hey, by all means, throw the voice in there. I'll chuckle at it.
Right, Pernell?
Fucking yeah! Yes. Yes,
it didn't work. Yes. What? I was expecting it to drop. What the hell?
Oh! When you listen to the episode, it will have dropped.
Oh,
yeah. We're not technologically inclined enough to include it.
Yeah, I don't know how to send it over Skype.
That's true. It makes sense.
It's beyond my expertise. I would have to I don't know.
Google it.
Have an actual soundboard that goes in through my audio mixer and gets mixed in with my input, and I don't fucking know. Other topics that you had. One that I really, really wanted to talk about is before Ichigoichie, you worked with InNIS.
Right.
Is that how it's pronounced, InNIS?
It's pronounced InNIS, yes.
InNIS. I love InNIS. I love the Ondon games, Elite Beat Agents. What was it like working there?
It was crazy. I mean, I moved over to Japan when I was 22. And so at that point, I'm still in the what am I doing with my life? Who am I kind of identity phase? And just jumping from America to Japan, which is a completely different kind of environment. And, learning what Japanese corporate responsibility is like and, how not to be a burden to the people around you. But then also like this crazy phenomenon that exists only in Japan, like, male cheerleaders in black trench coats and poofed up hair, cheering for people in times of trouble and stuff like that. It was fantastic. It was really, really tough integrating myself in society, but I'm totally glad I stuck it out. And it was fantastic. It was a great experience.
And in addition to those, there's one other game. I'm not sure if you were there for this one or not, but Gitaroo Man.
Woo! Yeah, exactly. So I was the lead developer on Gitaroo Man Lives, which was the PSP
Really?
version. Yeah,
wow.
And had like 2 extra levels and things like that. So that was the first title that I was the lead programmer on.
Wow.
Gitaroo Man is literally... Oh, I was going to say, Gitaroo Man is literally my favorite rhythm game.
Yes.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah.
The thing about it is, like, I remember when it came out, like, people really didn't even want to understand it. But then, like, somehow, like, after the fact, people were like, wait a minute, how'd you not play Gitaroo Man? Like, it became, like, a cult classic after the fact, which it deserved that love, though. Love that damn game.
Knowing that you worked so closely with that game now, I want to personally thank you. The legendary theme was the first dance at my wedding.
Wow.
As performed by the 1UPs.
I'm so glad to hear that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, if any of our listeners are familiar with the 1UPs, they played my wedding, suck my dick. It was an awesome show.
We have in Japan, you don't have Christmas parties, you have end of year parties every year for your company. And at the end of the year party, I think it was my second year there, I played the legendary theme, the acoustic version. It's like we were a company of musicians, and I was really low on the totem pole there because I was just beginning to learn to be a musician. So you have lots of really talented people playing other songs like and J-pop and things like that. But I got up on stage by myself and played the legendary theme on acoustic guitar. I'd practiced for it for weeks. Yeah,
wow.
I love that track.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Is there a recording
of it? Kind of funny how you presented it, though. Like, you're like, I was low on the totem pole, so they made me play a legendary theme by myself on the stage.
But it was my choice. I'm as much a fanboy as you are, Joe. So I wanted to play it.
That's awesome. Is there a recording of it anywhere that we could hear it?
No, I don't think so. It's just a company Christmas party. I don't think we taped that, thankfully.
Damn.
Thankfully.
Well, now we have to demand that you do it again so that you can record it now that you've got
just
a nice
play
mic.
it live, pick up a guitar, and just do it right now.
That'd be an interesting twist. Like, I don't know how it would work per se, but is there any way you could, like, say, like, as a guesting thing, and get them to let you put, like, a Gitaroo Man song in Hexagroove as, like, one of the stages or something? I don't know how it would work per se, because you have to have it so that you could vary the instruments and stuff, but...
Yeah. I think that, we'll see what happens with the Steam version. I don't think we can't put other copyrighted material into it, but we'll see how it goes on the PC version.
Oh, people are going to hack the shit out of that. I can't wait.
It's only a matter of time until somebody mods it, I'm sure. So,
my question is, if you were involved in Gitaroo Man Lives, like, I always thought it was Lives, but I guess it's Lives.
Yeah, I guess maybe. Yeah, I pronounce it that way just because the Japanese is raibu, which is like live, like live. In Japan, a concert is called a live. Yeah.
So, did you have anything? I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying, I was going to be like, it was what? Okay.
I'm gonna whack them both with my cane.
Please do.
I was wondering if you had anything to do with the localization of Osu Tatake Oendan to Elite Beat Agents, since that's also an InNIS game.
Yeah, with the localization, no, I think Nintendo of America did a localization. Or, no, wait. Oendan 2 just stayed in Japan, right? So
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. No, I was just developer on that. I didn't do
that's cool, though.
Yeah.
Because I know Elite Beat Agents was basically its own completely separate game, basically, given all the changes in music and all the differences. It felt like its own standalone game.
It pretty much was. Like, they I mean, aside from the fact that it was just like these people were making other people feel better through song or energizing them, it was literally a completely different game across the board. So Actually, that's a question worth asking. Did that get a Japanese release?
No. The problem with music games is that getting licenses for the songs in multiple countries is really expensive. If you have like Sony in America versus Sony Japan and things like that, which is why it's really, really financially difficult to make a game that has any kind of real songs as opposed to original content in it.
That makes sense. And then Elite Beat Agents was a lot of like non-original content, so the licensing would have been an issue.
I do have a cameo in the first ON done though. If you play the first ON done, I'm in that.
Really?
Yeah.
Where?
So on the 4th level, I think it is, there's a summer festival where like the guy, it's like a Romeo and Juliet type thing where like the boy is trying to win the heart of the girl and then impress her father and stuff like that. So they're doing the portable shrine racing. And I think the second or third break is there's like a bunch of foreigners watching the festival happening, and they're like, "Oh, look, it's a Japanese festival. We'll help." And then one of the guys has like brown hair and like a big nose, and that's me. Like they put me in there because I like going to Japanese festivals so much. Like, yeah, we should throw in some foreigners. That the foreigners are in Japan and they want to help out with the festival too. So.
Nice.
That's pretty awesome, actually.
Do you know if Elite Beat Agents was heavily imported in Japan from America?
I don't think it was, to be honest.
Because I know in America, a lot of people complained about the soundtrack and thought the Japanese version had the better soundtrack. I always wondered if Japan ever thinks, oh man, America has such a much better soundtrack than we have. Ours sucks.
I think those people are wrong, because I think the song choice is something I wouldn't have chosen, but I mean,
in game it was great.
In game it was fantastic. I mean, it made me like an Avril Lavigne song. I can't believe it. By the way, Elite Beat Agents is my second favorite rhythm game of all time.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
honestly, I agree. Like wherever that level was with the nurse and the syringe, like I play that level so much, but at the same time, I would never want to listen to it on the radio proper. I don't know how to explain it. It just worked, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find my copy of A Wind and right the hell now. Because I'm going to fuck you with this game.
I'd have to leave the podcast entirely because all my DS games are like in the other room, in a tote, under the bed.
Oh, God. I'm just kind of starstruck that you worked on Gitaroo Man. That just makes me so happy. It's so cool that I can thank you for your role in that game because it meant so much to me and my life and my wife, and that is awesome. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. I mean, the people that founded InNIS are extremely talented. And Keiichi Yano, who was the CEO at the time, he grew up in America and he had a great blend of Japanese and American sense. And I think he did a great job designing the game.
On the flip side of InNIS, you worked with Rockstar San Diego as well.
Yeah, just for a little while. I was there for about 4 months or so, I guess, before I jumped ship and went over to Japan.
What did you do with Rockstar?
So I worked on Midnight Club 2 and Red Dead Revolver. I was on the engine team, so I was working as a junior programmer on the core programming that was used in all of the games that Rockstar San Diego made. So that was, at the time, it was Midnight Club 2 and Red Dead Revolver for PS2.
What kind of differences did you see in working with Rockstar versus working with InNIS and then working by yourself? Yeah, Rockstar was originally, it was Angel Studios is the name of the studio, but they were purchased by Rockstar shortly right before I started working there. But it lived up to to what you would imagine and to the name, even when it was Angel Studios. I mean, there was like a margarita machine in the break room, and like every time it was every Friday or every last Friday of the month, there was a barbecue the company put on for lunch. So there's like all these, the office phones, and there's a comm system, and right around 12 o'clock you hear like a sound, like it goes blaring through the whole company, which just means that the barbecue is ready. And the parties that they had were really wild and colorful. I'll just leave it at that. You can't just leave it at that.
That sounds like a surprisingly dangerous form of conditioning. That's like a oddly dangerous form of conditioning. They're like an actual fire alarm goes off and everybody else is freaked like, oh, barbecue.
Yeah, the name says it all, Rockstar, right? So it's living that, it's like an excess kind of thing, working tons of hours, but then when you party, eating tons of really nice tequila and just kind of things going nuts. In Japan, it's not so much nuts. I mean, it's nuts, but not in the same way. In Japan, because you have the social structure of like your elders in terms of the company and the juniors and who's in charge and what you do, what your boss says, no matter what, and you don't question him. And the working is probably about as much, maybe even more in Japan, which is not a healthy thing very often. But I think in Japan, it fostered in me anyway, whether you want to call it like Stockholm Syndrome, like a feeling of family. Like my coworkers, I really love them. I feel really close to them. And even though I don't work at that company anymore, I talk to them all the time. And we went through a lot of tough stuff together. And when it was time to chill, we celebrated. And they're just really, really good people. And I would be happy drinking with them, which we usually did like after work, 2-3 times a week, even though we're working until 9-10 o'clock at night. So it's very different. And now coming to Sweden, having my own company, I kind of have the DNA or like the spirit of the best things from those two places, combined with how in Sweden everything it's very much we got good government support for if you get sick and healthcare and things like that, and nobody really works incredibly hard here, and there's like a lot of laws and control to make sure that the individual is protected from corporations and stuff like that. So it's a good blend.
And mid-afternoon barbecue?
We don't have mid-afternoon barbecue, but I've introduced mid-afternoon. There's a thing called fika, which is like tea time, where we have coffee and like sweet rolls and things like that together as a company.
April 1st, it's barbecue day.
That's right. Throw it up. I think almost everybody in the company is a vegan right now, so I don't know if that's going to work. I guess maybe we'll put...
oh, no.
Oh, there's vegan options.
We'll have some Impossible Burgers or something like that. Yeah.
There's definitely vegan options out there. My buddy, Chris could find out. Not you, Chris. Other Chris. Huber.
Oh, I know you didn't mean me.
Chris could probably help with the real barbecue.
Probably. I mean, I am in Texas, but there's all kinds of barbecue everywhere. So it's all, depending on people's tastes.
Yeah.
Like California barbecue is for if you just want to eat pure sugar and a slice of cucumber.
Oh, man. Anyway, on the topic of comparing companies, you have released Hexagroove on the Switch, on Xbox, and it's coming to Steam. What kind of differences are there working with Microsoft, working with Nintendo, and working with Valve?
I think that's a very interesting question. Just, I've been working in the industry for a while, so I've seen things evolve over time. In the old days, when I was a junior developer, and Nintendo it was all Japanese because we were in Japan at the time, and it was very top down. It was like, this works, do it, or this doesn't work, change it. And we were working second party, so that's the relationship you have. And when Nintendo determines that what you're building is interesting enough that they want to make it exclusive and they want to help support it, then you gotta build it the Nintendo way, to the Nintendo level of quality, of course. Microsoft is a huge multinational corporation, of course. We made games for them second party as well, like Lips, karaoke
series.
On
I remember
Xbox
Lips.
360. Yeah,
I got a couple of those on my shelf.
Those are great games, and I still like playing them. We play them at Ichigoichie Christmas parties and stuff like that here, because the mics and the console still works, and it's fantastic. But of course, with Microsoft, it's more friendly up at front because it's American. But at the same time, they're driven by the dollar like everyone else. So maybe they would make a decision that's more based on money or strategy. With Nintendo, like the loyalty might factor more into it when they're choosing something. So like maybe it would be, you might be at more risk with Microsoft stuff depending on the status of things throughout the project over the course. Or with Nintendo, like once they start it, they're going to commit to it and they're going to see through it to the end. Right now, working on Hexagroove, we're working as third party, which means that we don't have any direct support from any of the platform holders. And we're a licensed developer for both Steam, Switch, and Xbox One. But, we have our representatives which help us through the process of getting our game released. And it's the same kind of thing, I think, where like with Nintendo, it's, that sometimes you think things are going well, but you're not quite sure. And there's like some more layers of opacity, I think, between it, because Nintendo is ultimately a Japanese company and they have children companies, which are Europe and America, and it's kind of split up. Whereas with Microsoft, everything is basically going through Seattle, unless you're working with contractors. And Valve is the same way. Microsoft was really good. They were really intimate. I think they were very helpful. They're always positive. Whenever you have a question, they're quick to respond, and they have a huge team of people that you work with over the course. Whereas with Nintendo, it's very much more small and homey kind of feeling, I guess, and you're kind of going through service window. Valve they have so many games out there that we don't interact with them directly very much at all, unless there's like a problem with certification or something like that. But overall, I'm so happy that we've done all three of them because it's really given us a lot of perspective. The only challenge, I think, between the three is marketing is different for each platform, and then trying to wrap my head around, how to market for Steam versus how to market for Switch versus how to market for Microsoft and those kind of things, because they're all different beasts and they're different customer bases.
Yeah, I got to be fair and ask, there is a fourth platform out there, PlayStation. Any thoughts on hitting them up?
Love.
Yeah, we're looking into it. I think PlayStation takes a bit more legwork, and it's a bigger investment, I think, in terms of maybe time and financially from the start. So yeah, without breaking NDAs or anything like that, it costs more, I think, overall as a company to ship on PlayStation. So you really need to kind of do the back of the envelope calculation about potential sales and see if it's worth your time versus maybe pivoting to another project, which would be more suitable for PlayStation or something like that.
Makes sense. A weird side note I worth mentioning right now is that I actually did just see you in the game, and that was pretty freaking funny. I told you I was going to do it. I was like, I got to see where he's talking about. Sure enough.
To be fair, my nose is not that big. That's just like, some Japanese animator's opinion of how big my nose is.
Can I just say I'm let down you didn't have the music up?
I feel like you wouldn't want that. Imagine this man comes onto the show, he wants to talk to us, have a cool interview, and the whole time I was like, Mallory, or some random music playing in the background. He doesn't want that.
Yeah, people generally don't like it when they're talking to you, and then you like whip out a video game and start playing it.
Like, my thing was like, I just got to see where he's at in this game. And as everybody knows, I'm pretty much good at doing like three things at once. So I'll be talking, playing like two games, and mixing a freaking like pot of scrambled eggs. So I mean, it's all good. But I do think it's hilarious that that was like, it's like they were like Matsuri, and they all ran up. It's pretty funny.
Right. Exactly.
So I'd like to actually back up from Pernells Tangent a little bit. And you were talking about how many indies come out and everything on the different platforms. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how do you get a game like Hexagroove into the hands of the people who would enjoy it when there are dozens and dozens of games coming out on every platform every week.
Yeah, that's really, really tough. And I wish I had a fantastic answer for that. But it's with these kind of things, it's like as indies, there's as many articles about how to get your game onto the top of the Steam store, probably as there are games that want to be on top of the Steam store. And it really depends, I guess, on the kind of game that you have. And I think, skill is of course a part of it, but I think luck is also a big part of it. Like you had something like Among Us, where recently, that game was out for like a couple of years, and all of a sudden
2 years, and out of nowhere it just blew up.
Yeah, exactly.
I also think it's like a lot to do with like timing sometimes too, because like Cole said, there's like always a ton of games coming out every week or so, but if it just happens to be that you timed yours on a week, because it's almost something that you can never really truly get either. It's just something that happens, but you time it on a week where all the releases, none of them are music based or something like that. And your game fills a niche for that specific period in time, which then gives the writers the excuse to say, let's talk about this game right here. It fits the criteria I was looking to write about this week, which then, gives it a little bit more oomph. But it seems like a lot of this is just driven by like the social media or social market.
Yeah. And I think very little of it actually comes from top down. It's not me going on Twitter and saying Hexagroove rocks, you should play it. Unless Elon Musk or someone picks that up and retweets that, it's the distance that I'm going to get in that tweet is like a couple hundred people or something like that. And of that couple hundred people, X% are going to forget about it. X% are going to make a note to look at it later, and then the funnel gets narrower and narrower down to the bottom before maybe one person picks up the game or something like that. I think that they say that if you have a game that catches people's eye, that's a good way to get people in the top of the funnel. So like they say, you must have a good GIF that catches people's eye, like a really sexy looking GIF. Like you have an animated GIF playing and it looks like completely batshit crazy and you're like, oh my God, what is this? So then you want to dive into it. I think music games have a huge challenge because how do you make a GIF of music? Obviously you can't do that. So the game has to look crazy enough that it gets a lot of people interested to click through and learn more about it.
To be honest, I always thought that was like one of like Konami's smarter bets when they did their music games, because back when I first started playing them, I didn't really understand why songs had characters that went along with them and things like that, because really they have nothing to do with the game. But I think it's exactly what you just said. People can see these colorful characters, and like even if it's just like them giving a thumbs up in the crowd, it's like, oh wow, this is a very colorful game. Let me boot it up, and then all it is the guy dancing on the side while the actual game is just the music. So in the end, a lot of visual flair. And someone was recently telling me not too long ago, which I didn't realize, was that the reason why Fortnite became so big was because Drake was playing it on Twitter, which I did not realize.
Yeah. I think the streamer like aspect is now like a huge concern. I actually, when y'all were talking about Among Us, I guess the robots were listening because my Twitter feed got a YouTube Gaming sponsored tweet of this dude I'd never seen before playing Among Us, and he says with 9 million different people, and I'm like, what? It's got 1,000 retweets already, and it's only been up for an hour. So
damn,
jeez, that's 1,000 people who are probably going to check out this guy that I've never seen before playing Among Us, a 2-year-old game.
How do we get YouTube to retweet us? Jesus.
And the thing about it is, like, can anybody trace what triggered Among Us to spark again? Because that's the one I'm losing.
I really think it's streamers. Like, they're a huge influence now. So the top streamers pick up something like your Vine Sauce or whoever, and 5,000 people watch that, and out of all them, if somebody's in there in that stream wanting to like be this guy that's got 5,000 people watching him, how many of them are going to buy that game just so they can start streaming it on their channel for 3 people? And even if that doesn't help them, that's a purchase of the game.
Yeah, that's boosting sales when thousands of people are watching this game being played. And then you have the potential of possibly playing with the streamer.
Mm-hmm. And admittedly, I would bet something like when MagFest, I would look forward to it coming back, because I think something like MagFest would help too. Because if, say, for example, someone decided to set up, say, Hexagroove in the main area, when people are going into the dealer's room in the video game hall, and we're just playing it on this big screen with the music blaring.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. Go,
what the hell's going on? And you just get that one person that's really good at explaining the game. They're like, oh, check out what he's doing there. See that? That's him doing a thing. That's why you're hearing that boop, 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 boop sound. And all of a sudden the interest is generated because you're watching it while you're waiting to get in, and all of a sudden it just caught you, and now you're a fan. So
Hexagroove would be really good at MagFest.
Although that's the experience I always avoid at MagFest. It's always about being on the constant hunt for people who I'm Facebook friends with. But I mean, I guess because I've gone there so many years as a musician, I kind of felt like disconnected from it anyway. So
fair.
Always look for Joe. That's one thing I've always done.
Aww. Adorable.
That's the funny thing is, like, I stopped going for years, but then when I started going back again in like the 10th year, that's how I kind of play out for me too. Like, I just kind of was getting caught up and trying to figure out what the heck is this situation now? What is this thing? But I was like, hey, Joe still comes. I remember Joe.
Everyone remembers Joe from MagFest. Everyone remembers.
Well, the logic is that's how I met you. Like, that's literally how I met you. So, I mean, it comes back to that in that regard. But hey.
Yeah. Going back to Hexagroove, has it found an audience on Xbox? How well has it done?
It's done okay. We had more, we had more pre-purchases on Xbox, actually, than we had on Switch, which I think is interesting. Because Xbox is not really known as like a big indie juggernaut compared to like Switch. So I don't know if that means that we did the marketing better, or because we'd been out for a year, some people have been hearing about us and they're like thinking in their mind, when will Hexagroove come to Xbox? But in terms of overall sales, it's not selling as well as it does on Switch. So that, you can chalk part of that up to the install base size. I think, and part of it just to the kind of consumer that hangs out on Xbox versus Switch. I think there's probably more people are looking for AAA games on Xbox than they are on Switch, obviously, unless you're talking Nintendo. So I think that's part of the distribution.
Well, there is something to be said about the potential for like the reason why you get the major pre-sales is because it was due to the fact that it's not such an indie juggernaut, that people that do like indies were keeping an eye out for it and going, oh crap, here we go. Now let me get this right now while I can.
Yeah. So hopefully we can see the same kind of thing in Steam, although I have no idea because there's just so many games on Steam. It's really like a shot in the dark kind of thing. It's not like the App Store, but it's close, I think.
Yeah, those environments are the scariest ones of all. Honestly, that is truly the example. Like when you're like drowning in riches, like what do you do? You're just like, well, I'll just throw a dart, and if it lands on that game, I'll buy it. Like,
I wonder as well if it's maybe for the pre-sale thing, if it's just because the Switch is hitting like this saturation point on like new stuff that's coming out constantly, like of all kinds of things. So like people kind of wait until it's actually out to like consider it and purchase it. Whereas on Xbox, maybe more people are like looking forward to something coming out.
I know on Xbox, like the coming soon section isn't that big. So when you see a game that's in the coming soon section and it catches your eye, more often than not, you're going to jump on it. And if there's a launch discount, that makes it even sweeter usually.
Which is like, you know, my habit for Nintendo eShop is that I go straight to, I go to my wish list and I scroll down that because those are the games I want, and I'm checking to see if they're on sale. And then I go to Great
somehow
Deals.
Don't own yet.
Yeah. And then I go to Great Deals, and that's where I scroll through 700 titles on average. Literally 700. I've been paying attention to the numbers.
Switch, yes.
Like between 550 and 700 is usually what it is. And I scroll through there looking for like stuff that I didn't add to my wish list, but is it cheap enough that I might just say, you know, hey, this is worth trying? And
the deals page alone now is 642.
There you go.
Just for the deals page. Not even like just the general list of games.
And that eShop is not fast. You have to wait for like every 20 or 30 of those games to like load in while you're scrolling down, and don't dare scroll away from it. Otherwise you start over.
It's literal jank. Like, and you know, your setup is terrible when the way you find games, generally, if it's not looking through the coming soon section specifically because it's more relegated or regulated there, you go to websites that do the chronicling for you. You're like, that game's on there. Then you just go and look it up because they got time to scroll that shop.
Sometimes I will like actually go to the Great Deals section on the PC, even though it's not quite as it's not good there either. But anyway, so like my habit's not to look at coming soon and then place a pre-order, you know? Like, whereas I think on a console, if I'm shopping for a game, then I'm there with more of an intention to like open up that wallet. But does that though? Excuse me. But do those high discount sales cause a problem for developers? I mean, most of the developers I've heard of say yeah.
Yeah.
The ones who are making good games say yes.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is I think the phrase you hear thrown around is a race to the bottom, and that's really what's happening. And Switch is, I mean, it's full of these 90% off. Now it's like $1. I'm like, dude, like what is even the point? Like, why you even
value your product?
Yeah. And then what happens is I can't say for sure, but I think psychologically the customer starts to believe, well, shit, this is all like 50, 70% off. And this game's only 20% off. Well, screw that 20% off game. And it costs more or something like that.
To be honest, I agree with that statement, and it goes a little bit further than that too. I think because I buy a lot of games, even aside from what I review on the show. I buy a lot of stuff, and I have friends who will generally chastise me for buying games when they come out. Let's say a game comes out of Target for $60. They might have a quick sale that the first week launch was like $52, and I'll buy it. And then someone will go, "Why the heck did you buy that game?" I'm like, "Because I want to play it. And it just came out, and I want to support the devs." And they'll go, "Yeah, but if you wait till Christmas or here, you'll be able to get it for like 50% off or so." I was like, "Yeah, I'll get it," but they're not profiting off of their game anymore. Now they're just losing money on it, just to move product. So it's like, I think
that's a very rare altruism to have.
I mean, honestly, I think it is rare, which is a shame, because the problem is what I'm used to seeing on like the internet is a lot of people like complaining when companies go under or they can't afford to produce X game. Like, I understand this game was great. They should be produced. Like, okay, well, how many people in this room pirated it? And how many of you bought it when it was 60% off? Because if you hit any of these categories, you don't really get much of a right to say, why isn't this company releasing a sequel? Because you didn't support it when they needed the money to fund the sequel. So that's how I generally think about it.
Yeah. And I mean, some of that's also budget, because the Switch is mostly a budget system, you know, like it fills the need for portable gaming and TV gaming for a lesser price point than like what the other guys are doing, for just a console like system. So like thinking back to my poor days, which I'm not on the other side of really, but I am doing better than I was.
I'm doing better too, because No Time for Games just dropped 50 bits. Norg, take it away.
Drop it bits!
Okay, back to your story.
I just realized I want to make sure that I didn't hit a point there. Like, I'm not saying that in regards to people who are like, okay, I got to watch my numbers. I can afford a game this week. What am I going to buy? Like, I totally get that. I'm more so referring to people that are not hurting for money to buy a game, because though they're getting this game at 50% off, they're also taking random vacations and stuff like that. So it's like, it's less about not having the money to do it, and it's more like saying, I value spending my money over here, not so much over there. But then wondering why their games aren't getting produced, you know?
Yeah, but I'm just saying that's the reason for the shovelware. And it was the same with the Wii, honestly. Like, even though they were all physical games, like the Wii saw this huge, and PS2 got there as well at some point. It's just like, you know, companies come out with these like badly produced like games that are meant to be sold for 20 initially, and then go down to like 10 and 5, and you know, now they're a quarter. And like the digital version is just because there's no need to physically print the games now. It's kind of like it's accelerated the lower production and the higher distribution. So it's like, that's, I think, what that's evolved into, or devolved.
That makes a lot of sense. I didn't even think about that, but yeah,
it's you targeting.
Could skip the retail market. It's like, just produce this game for $20, throw it on the eShop, and whatever we get is money, because it costs us nothing to make it.
Yeah. And, you know, usually they're reusing assets, and like, or they're just, it's, you know, it's a little more of a cynical approach, I feel. But then, you know, you weed through all that, and I think this is where social media actually kind of helps, is when I add indie devs all the time to my Twitter. And in fact, I always like to see what they say about their own products. And, you know,
I need to follow Twitter more. I am so bad at like, I'll tweet out all the time, but I get so many fucking ads on Twitter that I get pissed off looking at it.
I have an ad blocker.
Well, I'm doing it on my phone, and
you can't.
Like, I could use a third-party one, but there's features that you can't get anywhere besides Twitter, like with mentions and shit. So I have to use the normal Twitter app, and it's just like, scroll 3 tweets and then a promoted one. I don't like this ad. Scroll 3 tweets, promoted one. I don't like this ad. Twitter is just terrible for me. I find more information, honestly. I use a website, True Achievements, that has a list of games that have achievements that have frequently gone live, or they have a calendar of game releases. That's where I find out my news of where things are coming.
I'll tell you one thing that's kind of funny, because you just made a comment that ties into it, I think, too. When people talk about, you know, how to get your game more noticed and stuff like that. Sometimes I remember you'd hear people say things like, well, sometimes you got to invest to get the word out, which means, you know, promotions and advertisements and stuff. Right. But I feel like we've reached this saturation point where so many various companies are advertising information through websites that are usually pinpointing the ads based on information that they pull together from draining the customer's data and then running it through algorithms and such. It's gotten to this weird point where like people have become so averse to even seeing advertisements that the art of trying to advertise your product ends up backfiring more than it doesn't.
Yeah. So I'm gonna break in for a second, because I was recently reading a Twitter thread from Rave of Ravendale, who is Mike Rose from No More Robots, and he was talking about
he was on the show before, actually, way back when he worked at a different company.
And this, for the sake of the Twitter thread, he was talking about how Nowhere Profit sold better on Xbox and Switch than on PlayStation, and he attributed some of that to it being in Game Pass and their marketing. And I just wanted to ask David how he felt about all you can eat style game subscriptions and how they might help with marketing versus how they might be a problem for profit.
Yeah, I don't know too much about how that financial model works, unfortunately. I don't know what Microsoft would pay to have your game on Game Pass. I don't know personally. I know they want to invite you in because they're probably doing the same thing that the Apple gaming or Apple subscription service does, where they know that there's so many junky games out there, so they want to say, look, if you come here, we guarantee you're going to get something decent, and they want people to have the peace of mind. So it's usually like an invite only thing. I think, financially, if it works out, that's fine. But the thing to me that I'm a little worried about is that this might also kind of further the devaluation of the medium. I think being digital distribution main now is also adding to that. Like, some people say, I want a physical copy so I can have like the box on the wall and I can have it in my case and then line it up with all my other favorite games and things like that. For us, distributing physically on our own is not financially viable, so we have to be digital only. But I think if you look at like music now with Spotify and Apple Music and YouTube Music and things like that, when's the last time you actually paid for an individual piece of music? I do because I'm a DJ, but I think I'm probably the exception. Most people are.
It's unfortunately very rare for
Joe
me.
Joe is also the exception.
I'm always buying shit on iTunes. I'm always buying singles, buying albums. So I appreciate music in all forms. Definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, I pay for the songs because I'm a DJ and because I'm a creator. So I know that this guy put, hours and weeks and months into whatever it is he made, whether it's an album or an indie film or something like that. But I think, again, I think us that create, because we're living, hand to mouth, we know what it's like. I think the average person doesn't is my cynical kind of like guess, but I don't know. Now that everybody has Instagram, everyone's a photographer, right? So the art of being a photographer as a profession has become kind of watered down.
Yeah, my sister knows that.
Yeah.
So then the value is not in selling pictures; it's in selling cameras.
Yeah, or cell phones in this case. Yeah.
It's like who makes the most
SLRs on the way down. Yeah.
And an interesting thing, because you were comparing it to music, one of the things that I had seen not too long ago was that it was a comparison of how like songs used to be 5, 6, 7 minutes long. Even one of my favorites is Aqua's Transmission. It's like 13 minutes long. Yeah. And now we see that music is shorter because they get paid per play. So the song will only be, 2.5, 3 minutes tops.
Right. Yeah.
Do you think that could lead to shorter games if people are getting paid on a per play basis?
I think that might be a possibility, and that's an interesting idea. That might work. I think you're always going to have people that are whining about, oh, I paid X dollars for this game and I beat it in 5 hours. That's fine. Yeah. If you wanted The Witcher.
Oh God, who has 5 hours for a game?
I'm sorry that our $30 game did not give you Witcher levels of replay and things like that. But yeah, maybe. But I think that's for connoisseurs, maybe. Or connoisseurs are people who have kids, is what I'll say.
Do you feel... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. It's okay.
I was going to say, do you feel being at a $30 price tag affected sales in any way, or do you think it performed better on Xbox or Switch because of the price in one way or another?
I think that maybe we could have sold more copies if we were cheaper, but I think the revenue would have been the same. And I have some data that I've looked at from other markets, which suggests a similar kind of thing. But from my perspective, I'm not doing it because I'm a snob or anything, but these games take a whole lot of time and money to make. And for me to sell it for $15 or $10 or something like that is insane. And that I think that devalues also the time that we invested into it, and I'll have no chance in hell of paying back all the people that worked really hard on this game for selling it for that little, because everyone's only going to buy it on sale anyway. So then like the full price means even less.
You think it hurts companies like yours who charge higher prices for higher quality games when you see other companies that regularly release $5 games that people can complete in 20 minutes?
It might hurt in the short term, but the optimist in me thinks in the long term it's going to pay off, because at some point people are going to hopefully look at us and say, oh, Ichigoichie means a quality game with a new mechanic no one's ever tried before. And it's going to be done thoroughly, and it's going to be supported, and it's going to have really nice people behind it that have taken their time to make this game. So I think that building that kind of credibility in our brand is hopefully something that the market will come around to appreciate over time. It might take us 2 or 3 games to get there. Hopefully it comes around faster than that. But I don't want to be known as someone who makes $5 games in the interest of staying alive. I'll be making the $30 games and then working a separate job at nights or whatever it takes to keep the lights on, and build something which to me is a lot deeper and more meaningful. And
something you could be proud of.
Yeah.
Which, I think that's, there's an important thing there in sort of finding your audience is what I think it's called, because like, if you have something that really resonates with somebody, they'll pay for it, full price day one, like, yeah. I got really into Onion Games, who almost never do like very good sales. Like they have like 1 or 2 games that they'll put on sale sometimes. But I was so like, when I found out who they were, like they go all the way back, to like, PlayStation like era and stuff like that. And, they just were in charge of all these quirky games that I really love. And so when they started coming out with games, I just started buying them, and their average is about $20 or more, and digital only. And then sometimes it's like based on, actually like word of mouth and reviews and stuff like that. Like, I just bought, Phonotopia Awakening for full price, just based on what people have been saying about it and on this podcast and on the socials.
Hey, we got a sale. Sweet. We did something. Who reviewed that one? Cole? Pernell? Pernell. Good job, Pernell.
Yeah. Was that me or the audio playback? I don't know anymore.
It was you.
You're breaking.
We were waiting for you. We are waiting for you, right, Pernell?
Fucking yeah! but yeah, that guy definitely. I'm glad I definitely got a sale out of it. Like I definitely try to talk it up to people when I can, because again, it surprised me too when it came through. And now that I know that it exists and what it does, I want to tell other people that it exists and what it does. So
yeah.
Word of mouth is good. Something I wanted to jump back a little bit. You mentioned the game being digital only, a lot of games being digital only. We're seeing some niche titles and indies getting physical releases through people like Limited Run Games. What are the other companies? Physicality Games.
Strictly Limited.
There's so many of these small companies popping up. Have you thought of approaching any of them about doing some form of physical collector's version of Hexagroove?
In my mind, that sounds romantic, and I would like to do that. Unfortunately, the reality is because we're a 2-person studio full time, I just don't. It's on my list, but it's towards the bottom, and I don't have time to get around to it yet. I really need a marketing department to do that kind of stuff for me.
I am curious about the small batch, like, artisan physical release, like companies and stuff, because they really do seem to be taking off. And so obviously these companies are doing well, but I wonder how the devs are doing working with them.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I'd wait that the dev at least would get the profit for the game sale itself. Like, for example, like if Hexagroove was like to say, hey, we're doing a limited run release of Hexagroove. We're producing 3,000 copies, something that's probably, negotiated with the developer initially. And then at that point, it's expected to make those sales. And when it comes to those kinds of things with the limited number, generally you'll just sell them because collectors want them. They don't, whether a game is good or not, they just want to buy it.
And sometimes it's a situation of I paid a low price for the game to get it, and then I played it and I liked it so much that now I want it on my shelf. Like
I've done that with Ys Origins for sure, and La Mulana like 3 times.
Yeah, I have Ys Origins pre-ordered, and also like there's the Baobab's Mausoleum series which I reviewed. Those games sometimes go down. It's a trilogy, and they go down to like $1 each sometimes. But there's a collector's edition of all 3 games on a physical card for $40 that I'm actually like gonna buy because I just want that stuff on my like shelf. And then I'm thinking they're probably gonna make more money than the profit off of $1 downloads, from me and whomever I can convince to spend $1.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just don't know what if the profit margins are enough for the developer to like work with these small batch people, because I know the small batch people are making money. They obviously are.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe we know someone at Physicality Games. Maybe we could get you in touch with them and work something out.
Yeah, sure. That would be cool. Thank
Trade
you so
emails
much.
And
yeah,
maybe something cool can happen.
Yeah, learn more about how it works. I'm really new to that.
Jumping back a little bit further, we were talking about ways that we get our information. What other ways do you guys get information when you are looking for releases?
By you guys, you mean all of us? Yeah.
Yes, anyone. Feel free to chime in.
I'm sorry, I was petting the cat.
I thought you were asking him specifically. Me, I'm fairly. Maybe it's because I'm an old man at this point, but I'm very light with mine. I hit coming soon sections on consoles. Weekly, Kotaku will do a This Week in Games post. I check there. And then aside from that, it's usually just word of mouth, because what it boils down to in the end is just that there's literally so much popping off that it's not like an opinion piece. Like, to give an example, what was it? Paradise Killer, which Chris reviewed, I believe.
Yeah.
That game, I saw it on the eShop as a coming soon, and I was kind of just like, it was one of the majillion games on the site. So I was like, colorful, but I don't know. So I kept going. And then, like a couple days later, out of nowhere, while going to Google to look up something completely unrelated, there was an article on my feed that said, like, Paradise Killer, because from PC Gamers, like, well, Paradise Killer is a game that you should look into. And I was like, wait, someone wrote a whole article on this one game? This is worth checking out. So I went and read it. And that's what put Paradise Killer on the radar for me. So I bought it one day before Joe was like, you want to review Paradise Killer? I was like, damn it. But in the end, it was like,
yeah, Chris was third in line for the game. I asked Tim Ekibis, it's like, do you have any interest in this game? He's like, yes. Fuck, I bought it. And Pernell, are you interested in this game? Damn it.
Nope,
yes, I already bought it. Chris, you interested in this game? I haven't heard of it. Cool.
But the thing is, like, that method ended up working. Like, it put it on my radar for me, but otherwise it could have very well gotten lost in the sea of consciousness. Though, with that said, if it's a genre that I'm interested in, like rhythm games, a rhythm game would stick out to me on an eShop like that. Same for a puzzle game. So if I'm going through a coming soon list and something clearly indicates this is a puzzle game or a music game, I latch onto it. So, like, I think general interest in the genre and style of game will help too for pushing a game out there.
I wish Switch had like a genre, like, sorting thing.
I wish the Switch store had a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I wish the Switch in general had a lot of stuff.
I wish the Switch was more like Xbox.
I wish the Switch was an Xbox One.
Yeah, I have a deeply ingrained aversion to the Switch. So
I'm telling you, use it when it's on the TV and use the controller. You'll be fine. It's a good system.
I updated my backlog just last night, and so as of this moment, I'm currently sitting on 706 Switch games between physical and digital. So
I don't even want to look at my backlog; it'll make me sob.
Which I think
do it without getting something to sort it.
I think that we've been talking about money and like what's an acceptable price and then sales and stuff like that. But the truth of the matter is, I think at the end of the day, it's almost always about time, right? It's not about money.
Yes.
So it's like this game is going to take me time to look at, time to understand, time to play, and then you do a gut check in your mind subconsciously. Like, is the dollar amount here less the amount? Would I be comfortable burning this amount of money if it ended up I didn't spend any time on it, or my time was wasted, or something like that? And that's the tough thing, because there's no way I can tell you with a Steam store page or something that your time will be well spent. I can tell you that. I can write your time will be well spent by buying this game, but you're not gonna believe that, obviously.
Just say it was a quote from us. Your time will be well spent. If you play Hexagroove, your time will be well spent. The game kicks ass. Throw that motherfucker on the box.
Yeah.
Well,
when it comes to game. Well, go ahead, Chris.
I was just gonna say, I'm just gonna paraphrase the philosopher Schopenhauer here, and say that we purchase games because we believe that we're purchasing the time to play them.
And that lines it up quite nicely, because like the thought I was thinking about was like time investment and time, fulfilled in a game varies by person too. Because like I think back to when I was younger, and if I went and picked up a game and it said 100 plus hours of exciting gameplay, I freaked out and said, I got to buy this. I want it right now. And I'd buy it expecting a good time. I might only see 50 of those hours. But if those 50 hours were enjoyed and then I just got tired and moved on, I still appreciated the 50. Now, if I see a game that says 100 plus hours of exciting game, I'm like, oh, God, I don't have time for that. That's why I never started The Witcher. Like, as far as all the accolades that game got, I never started it. And the one time I tried, I got past the intro video at the press start screen. It's like, quit, can't do this. And I turned it back off. Yeah. Like, sometimes the investment of time is a scary bit just in the quantity, but I think if it's a matter of like how long it takes to learn a game, that one, it varies a little bit more. Like if it's a game that seems like it's learnable, I'll take the time to learn it. But if it's like now that you've learned it, good luck completing it in 90 hours. Well then.
But then how does that come back to subscription services, because you don't have the financial investment, it's only the time investment.
Yeah, and I don't know how it works internally, but I'm guessing that the platform holder pays you more by the number of times you're played. So obviously there's something.
I wish I knew how it worked. Every time that we've tried to ask someone on Game Pass, they're like, yeah, we can't talk about that.
Yeah,
the golden robots are watching. So
I mean, I can see why they wouldn't though, because if they learned it and it became public, people could game it, which would be a bad thing. But But I feel like as far as like the usage of it goes, and you and like Cole and Chris, does Chris have it? I know Cole and Joe have it, but Game Pass and make use of it. Do you get that smorgasbord feeling from it though? Like I remember with Sega Channel, like the last subscription service I really hit hard on was you'd have options like 50 games every month. And as a result, you became a lot pickier with what you stuck with, because you look at something, boot it up, you'll give it like an hour to go. If this doesn't hook me in an hour, I might just have to move on to one of the other games on the roster of great games I could try. So, if anything, I feel like the real issue becomes it has to hook you very fast in order to retain play on your Game Pass queue. But how about you guys? How have you felt with that?
All I can say.
Go ahead, Chris. If you have something to say, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Cole.
God damn it!
We're all so polite.
I'm not. Fuck all y'all. I don't really have that problem because I tend to know straight up. I play enough bullshit to know what I'm going to enjoy and what I'm not. So I tend to be a little more selective about what I even bother to install. I wish it gave me a count. I'm sitting here looking at my Game Pass app, and it looks like I've got maybe about 30 games installed on just on the PC side at the moment. That's not including what's on my Xbox. And I've played all except for 2 of them so far. So
now when you say played, do you say like played to experience them or like played them to at or near completion?
I don't have time to play shit to completion for now. I'm homeschooling 3 kids.
Your homework is to help me beat this game.
I'm homeschooling 3 kids. One of them's doing college classes too. I need a nap, not a game.
True.
Same.
Oh man. I would say the main way that I play Game Pass games is I play what's new, because I own most of the stuff on Game Pass. It's the new stuff that comes out that it helps me decide if I want to invest in that game and pick it up to own. And there's a lot of games that I do make that decision to, yes, I do want to pick this up. I want to keep this game. This game is worth supporting. Mm-hmm. Games like River Bond was one of them. Double Kick Heroes is one of them. Battletoads is one of them. There's lots of games that I still pick up on Game Pass despite them being there with my subscription that I still have for well over a year.
Mm-hmm. So I have a question about that then, Joe. What's the difference between that and playing a demo? Is it just the positioning, or is it that you've played more than a demo?
I think it's because it's unlimited play. I could play as much of it or as little of it as I want. I'm not limited by only a certain stage, only this. Another thing, I'll be honest, they have achievements. So I know some achievements, usually the time-based ones, they allow achievements. But even then you're restricted either by a certain amount of time, or I know they have some now that you just get 1 day, 24 hours to play it, and that's it. So I think just having the unlimited play of how much I want to play it before I decide if I want to invest, I think that helps.
You know what's interesting though? A game that was entirely sold to me through the demo was Gitaroo Man.
Yeah.
Because it had the one song, the stage 3, no instructions on how to play it, which is odd. It was like on one of those PlayStation discs that they sent out with magazines and stuff.
Right. But the third song too, because that's Mojo King B. Never mind.
Yeah. No, but it was a great song. But yeah, I played through that, and it was so compelling that I just kept. I learned it through playing it, and then I think it might have had one splash sheet with the instructions. But anyways, yeah, and then I bought that game, and then that became one of my favorite games. Like it's frequently in my like top 20 of all time games because it's my number one rhythm game. Anyway.
I love Gitaroo Man so much. I think we're going to play some music from it. David, I know we've had you on here for quite a while now. Is there anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap this up?
No, I don't think so. Not today. It's always fantastic talking with you guys, and thank you so much for having me here and letting me suggest the conversation topics. It was great.
Hey, we will always have you back, and you are always more than welcome to do our work for us.
Also, I'm downloading the Hexagroove demo right now.
Would be.
If you have any questions about the demo or how to play it, let me know, because I had to learn some of it through David. So in the end, it's like I can pass the knowledge forward to you.
I'm working on that, yeah.
Yeah, right on. I'll see if I can figure it out.
Let's take a vote. Which song from Gitaroo Man should I play?
Tainted Lovers or the final one? But then again, maybe not the final one. That's too much. Wait, no,
I like
Lovers.
The
mariachi band.
Oh, the legendary theme. But the legendary theme where he like makes up with Kira and realizes they're stronger together, and the real enemy is Zoe. That's the best.
That's the
metal version.
One, isn't it? Oh, no,
that's the metal version. The metal version. She's attacking him, and he doesn't want to fight back. Yeah.
We'll do the metal version of legendary theme now, and then at the end of the show, we'll throw in a couple of more songs, including Tainted Lovers, because that's my favorite song, and I was going to put that anyway.
Lovers, yeah.
Yes, exactly. But David, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone stick around. We're going to take that break. We'll be right back. Chris will still be here. Pernell will still be here. Cole will still be here. I'll still be here, unfortunately. I got to put up with you fuckers. But David, you have any final words to end this?
No, man. Peace. And vote. Go out there and vote.
Yes.
Whoever it is, just do it. Just vote.
You know what we mean when we say vote.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for hanging around. Another thanks to David Ventura for coming on and chatting with us about all things Vigia gaming and Hexagroove and Gitaroo Man. And that shit was fun, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
And everyone's still here.
Uh-huh.
Except David. He left.
Rip.
Did he? He could be here right now.
Oh, that would be so weird if he just jumped in the call. He's like, surprise, motherfucker.
Something tells me that of all the people we've interviewed recently, he wouldn't be the one to do that.
Man, we've had a lot of interviews for Talktober.
Talktober.
Yeah.
Is that what you're calling it now?
Yeah, I'm proud of that one. Talktober.
I think that we should celebrate octopi and like cephalopods all month, and then call it October.
Why? What does it
Just
mean?
to bring it back around again.
That's an awful idea.
Mm-hmm. Tell that to the Romans.
Countrymen.
They're the ones who originally called the month October.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing.
In a sense.
There's nothing innocent about them, sir.
I didn't say innocence. I said in a sense.
No, innocent.
The Romans were innocent. They didn't do anything wrong, okay?
Oh,
crap.
This show is going off the rails and we didn't even start. Good Lord. Is there anything anyone wanted to talk about, or should we just get to reviews?
I feel like we did all of our rambling on Sunday, because that was quite the interview. So
that wasn't on Sunday. That was just now. We just did. There is no editing.
Just happened.
This is one fell swoop.
It was a 3-minute long song that just covered the whole thing, and now it's same day.
Leave it to internet.
Like the Gauls, we came in and conquered them.
Yes.
In that case, I said everything I need to say 3 minutes ago.
Cool. So everyone good with just heading to reviews then?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Everybody in the pool.
All right. First game to talk about is called Charterstone Digital Edition, developed by Mobo Studio and Acram Digital, published by Acram Digital, released October 6th on Switch for $24.99. Build and discover in Charterstone, a digital board game campaign. Shape your village into the new Eternal City. For a name called Eternal City, you think Cole would be on this one, but no, Pernell, you're doing this.
That is correct. Eternal Pern. There it is. Boom. That's right.
No. No.
Usurp.
No.
But yes, I ended up requesting this because.
No.
Eternal. I ended up requesting this because I hadn't played the board game original version of it, but I was rather familiar with it in the board game scene, so to speak. So hearing there was a digital version coming out seemed like the perfect opportunity to give it a try. The thing that makes Charterstone special in the board game and now digital game verse is the fact that it was one of the first what is to be considered as legacy board games. What is a legacy board game?
I was just going to say, what the hell does a legacy board game mean?
It was an attempt. Well, I guess I won't call it attempt because they've become popular and there's lots of them now. But it's a concept built around the idea of a board game that evolves as you play and changes in ways that are in some ways irreversible. And ultimately, at the end of the game, you end up with a board or a player state that is uniquely your own. And depending on the game, you'll either A, play with those, have there might be a rule set that you can use with the completed board, or you can start over and rebuild from scratch, or you throw the whole thing in the trash and start over. Though some people frame their boards. But in the case of Charterstone, it was designed around the idea of the latter, where you can play your game, play the completed board in a specific way, or start new with something called a recharge kit. But we're not talking physical, baby. We're talking digital here. So first and foremost, what the heck is the game? Well, due to the concept of how the game works, I'll talk about the base elements of it, but I can't go into too much because, believe it or not, it's a board game with spoilers. This is probably one of the only times I'll ever say that. There are spoilers to the game. So the idea behind this is that you are a group of citizens that have settled on new land that your king has requested you basically build up to a thriving civilization. So you are competing with a number of other people, whether it be human or AI, to build this civilization up in the best way possible. Each player is given one section of the island to work from as their own, and then there's one communal section at the center of the game. This style of gameplay is what's known as worker placement. Worker placement games are a style where you might have like one or more meeples that when you place them at specific areas on the board, you can perform an action based on the worker and where you place them. So you might say, for example, place a worker at the market. And when you go to the market, you might say trade in 2 coins and then in exchange get 1 resource, which can then be used somewhere else on the board to do another thing. And then, of course, you typically want to get a combination of resources in order to perform an action, such as build a building or such and such. So in the context of Charterstone itself, the idea is that you start the game out with a number of cards. These cards allow you to perform a number of functions, typically revolving around building some buildings. At the start of the game, you choose a character. That character determines your starting building and your starting resources, which is 1 out of 6 different resource types. And then when you place that building down in your area of the island, each player takes a turn placing one of their 2 workers on one of the facilities on the board. And each of these facilities lets you do a variety of different things. Sometimes you can use a facility to, like I said earlier, exchange a resource for money, or exchange a resource and money for what's known as an advancement card. Advancement cards can let you do things like get assistance for your shop, which is like benefits to your actions, or a crate, which can be used to get more cars to take actions with, or other things which would be considered spoilers. And I'll talk about that to an extent in a few minutes. There are some other actions you could take, such as going to the Zeppelin, which allows you to take attempts at fulfilling glory or glory quotas. So you can drop a meeple off and pay a certain number of resources to get points, like immediately get points for your gameplay. And then just like a few other different things, like you can build buildings, like I said before. There are goals that exist at every game where if you fulfill the goal, you can go to a specific place on the board, pay the cost, fulfill the goal, and get points. Overall, the end result goal of your game is to have more victory points than the other players on the board. However, one thing that sets this apart is 2 things. One is the Charterstone. Like I didn't mention it before, but it is another building type action, which is essentially represented as like a giant dice on the map. You stop your meeple there, pay 2 influence, which is a resource that you get that's limited, some money, and a building card. And then what that lets you do is roll the Charterstone and then get a bunch of victory points, advancement to the progress track, which when the progress track hits a certain point, that's the end of the round or the end of the game rather, and a free crate, which allows you to get 3 more cards, which like I mentioned before, can contain spoilers. So at the end of every game, the game will total up how many victory points every player has accrued based along what goals they fulfilled and actions they performed on the board itself. And then the game is over, sort of, because at the end of every game, the game will move on to another quote-unquote round. And with each round, successive changes and elements get added to the game, which shuffle it around a bit. Like, it never stops being a worker placement game, but it changes the way, the focus of what you're trying to do. So, for example, it adds something called a guidepost goal, which means it adds a sub-goal to the game, which allows you to get points if you're able to fulfill that. Sometimes it might be build less buildings than every other player, which seems counterproductive, but that also means you just got to work around the goal to try to get those points, and things of that nature. The Charterstone thing, and what I meant about spoilers, however, is that the game, sometimes by way of the Charterstone crates, other times by the advancement of the different rounds, it finds ways to inject new elements to the game. And I'll just name one of them because just if I don't, you'll be like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But you might already be saying that, and I'm okay if you are. For example, one of the things that the game injects at a certain point is personas. No, you don't get to summon your inner self to fight demons. But what you can do is use these personas, quote unquote, to take on different jobs. And then the job for your individual person determines a specific special ability that you'll get. For example, there might be one that says every time you use a building that requires ore, or coal rather, you'll get a victory point just for doing it. So
I knew we would talk about coal eventually.
Of course we would. It's eternal, baby. It's Charterstone.
Sorry, Eternal. I cut you off.
Eternal. I like it. Eternal.
I said that before. Did you miss it?
I didn't, but I like hearing it. I keep saying it.
Okay, Pernell.
There we go. See, that's what I'm talking about. So there's a variety of different personas you can acquire in the game, usually also acquired by way of the Charterstone crates, or reward crates, I'll call them. But then there's a number of other elements that you inject to the game, too, to the point where by the end of the game, your board will have a variety of different buildings on it that would not have existed on another board, because you might not even see every building that the game has to offer by the end of it, or maybe they won't all get built, rather. And at that point, when you complete the entire game, it goes over the course of 13 different rounds. When you complete the game, that board can then be saved, and you can then use that board to play a new game of Charterstone if you want to play, like, a completed game set of rules. Or you can do another legacy campaign, which is also cool. And the reason why that sound is actually pretty nice for a digital game is that the original board game was probably like $50-$60. You play through the whole thing, and when you're done, if you want to do the restart of a new board, you have to buy the recharge pack, which was probably like $30 just to do it again. Whereas in this game, once you buy the digital game, you do as much as you want.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very nice element there. They also included, unexpectedly to me, but I didn't want to open them up until the end of the game because, again, if you open them up early, you kind of spoil it for yourself. But they included a few pre-built custom maps, too. Two of which of those maps are from Tom Vassell of the Dice Tower and Rado from Rado Runs Through. Both board game creators that loved the game, talked it up, and I guess the developers convinced them to submit their final boards for the purpose of letting other players use them. So that's kind of a nifty little bonus there.
Hey, maybe if they enjoy this review, they'll ask for your final board.
That'd be pretty cool.
That'll never happen.
Hey, don't you rain on my parade. It can happen, damn it. But all in all, and this is funny because I think every time I ask for a new board game, I think this is me getting practice and learning how to review them, because they're very weird to review compared to a video game, I think. Because usually with board games, it's easier when you have a board, you can kind of point to the elements, so you can do this and that. But with Charterstone, there's also the element of getting the spoilers. But overall, I would say that this game is a honestly fun title to me. The only gripe I had about it really is the fact that the interface drives me nuts in some cases. Like, it has button options and they let you touch options sometimes. You can just touch the screen and see what you want to see. However, the problem is, if you want to use the button options, good freaking luck pulling that off, because they interact in a way that even after playing it for hours already, I still find myself going, how the hell do I jump from here to here? This is ridiculous. So I end up always deviating back towards just touching the screen, because using the buttons drives me bonkers, which means that I could imagine this being a real pain in the ass if I was playing it on my television and not on the handheld mode. But I mean, it's nothing stopping anybody from braving the TV mode and seeing how it does. I'm assuming they would want to if they were playing with friends, because handheld, well, I guess you could handheld hot swap too, but it's not as fun as seeing it on the TV, I would think.
No.
But
it's a minor gripe, it seems.
Oh, yeah, because otherwise I think the game is good and there's a lot of value in buying it digitally. I mean, I always tend to say that if it came down to, pushing pieces on the table or pushing buttons on a screen, I'm going to take the pushing on the table. But that doesn't mean that there's not value to be had in digital games, especially ones that are meant to be used once. So that's an immense value there to me in and of itself. So in that regard,
$25 on this one. What do you think?
I think if you're already a fan of worker placement, it's a solid buy. But if you're kind of uncertain and you've never tried such games before, I think this is still worth a try, because for me, worker placement games are one of my favorite styles of play. And I think this is a game that starts out simple enough that anybody can pick it up, but then it just gets a little more complex as it goes along, as is intended being a legacy game.
Yeah. Well, speaking of legacy, the next game to talk about is called Alwa's Legacy, developed and published by Elden Pixels, released September 29th on the Switch for $17.99. Alwa's Legacy is a modern retro game full of dangerous dungeons, mystic items, and ancient secrets. Upgrade your magic and choose your own path in this non-linear adventure game brimming with exploration. Chris, tell us about this one.
Okay. The cat stole my seat because I got up to get my Switch, so I had to remove him gently. Okay, so Alwa's Legacy. Well, full disclosure, I actually had reviewed Alwa's Awakening, which I think also Pernell had. Mm-hmm. Back in the day when that came out, and I liked it so much that when the Kickstarter came out for Alwa's Legacy, I actually threw down for the Kickstarter too.
Nice.
So I didn't have to do this review. I already bought the game. So that's just to let you know. I am doing this review only because of my love for Alwa's Legacy. So
yeah, buddy.
Do what?
I was like, yeah, buddy.
Oh, I thought you said and money, and I was like, money? Where?
Who's paying?
I was going to say.
I ain't paying you fuckers. No way.
Yeah, exactly.
I have an Xbox to buy.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, God, don't remind me. I got to figure out how I'm getting my damn cash together for those things. That seems like fun.
I'm just going to keep working 11-hour shifts, I guess. Okay, geez. So if you remember either mine or Pernell's review of Alwa's Awakening, I think we were both really into it. It was, an 8-bit, like truly 8-bit style game where you played as Zoe, and you were a wizard who would gain spells that would help you basically platform puzzle solve and also defeat enemies in a nice little kind of Metroidvania stew that was very, very pleasing. And so that was that game. And it was, like I said, it truly was 8-bit. It actually works on like an NES, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of those.
Oh, Cole, look at you dropping biddies in the cup. What'd you go and do that for?
Dropping bits!
It seemed like a good idea at the time.
So, basically, I've been following the development of Alwa's Legacy since the Kickstarter, and was pretty hype about it. And sure enough, I mean, it's essentially it's like a sequel, also a retelling, I guess, of Alwa's Awakening. It's because you still show up, at the beginning of the game, you're Zoe, and you meet, different characters who tell you like about your mission and what you need to do. And of course, the game has you pick up a map and talk to a key character before you can take the elevator up to the first, stage. So it gently guides you to your goals, which is, that's a class move in a video game.
Cole, stop dropping bits.
Dropping bits!
So, it's very reminiscent of the original Alwa's Awakening. Like I said, it's the same character. It's the same, you have a melee attack with your stick, and then you have your spells that you collect. And you actually collect at least the first version of all of them within the first couple of dungeons. So you get really used to the mechanics early on. And they're partial, like, one of them is actually an attack, like an attack spell that also works for pushing buttons that are on the wall. And then there's a one that makes bricks so that you can jump on top of those and get to a higher place or put them down on buttons. And then there's one that's like a bubble so that you can kind of do what is essentially a double jump. But I mean, it's like if you've ever played Mega Man 5, and I recommend you do because it's the best one. Wave Man stage where you're jumping on top of these bubbles. Like, it's exactly that, only you're creating the bubbles. And so it's like that kind of gameplay. Side scrolling, there's plenty of enemies, bosses with like, consistent patterns, so you get to kind of like learn how to defeat them and stuff. And I'd say it's like the difficulty level of like a more modern Castlevania, like a portable one, the ones everybody likes. Not the original. Well, I mean, everybody likes the originals, but they're too hard. It's not one of the hard ones. It's like perfect temperature of difficulty, I would say, for what it is. The thing, though, there's a few of them, but the thing that really, really got to me in this game in a good way is that the graphics are amazing. The original Alwa's Legacy, even though it's a fun game and very solid, it was limited, of course, by the fact that it's a pure 8-bit game. You can't do much with backgrounds in an 8-bit game, ask Kid Icarus. Because, which, by the way, when they ported that to the 3DS and improved it, they added backgrounds to it that are, like, spectacular. And that's almost like what happened here. Yeah. 3D Classics Kid Icarus is amazing. They added, like, really beautiful backgrounds, but that's a different review.
But you just sold a copy of Kid Icarus 3D Classics because I want to see those backgrounds.
Oh man, on top of that though, like they also fixed the floaty jump thing, like as an option. You can like switch on easier jumping. So anyways, let's talk about Alwa's legacy.
Sorry, Elden Pixels, between bits and Kid Icarus, this review's going nowhere.
I know, right? I'm trying, guys. So yeah, that's the thing, is that like this sequel, spiritual successor, whatever you want to call it, an update, I suppose, it skipped past going from 8-bit to like 16-bit all the way to like just modern, like gorgeous, like pixel art. Like some of the backgrounds in this game are just amazing. Like you like get into a new area and you just stare at it for a while, and then you move left to right because you want to see how it moves, because everything moves in that like nice depth like type of thing, like kind of a parallax scrolling sort of deal.
Nice.
Like what impressed us with like the original Sonic the Hedgehog. And like that was like the effect. It was like seeing Sonic for the first time, like with all that background. And yeah, it's just like you get into new areas and you just like want to hang around in them for a while. And so that's extremely good. I'm extremely into the art of this game. And of course it's weird because like the game at no point feels like it's a flat game, but the characters, like the sprites in the foreground and everything like that, are very like, very flat. So it's an interesting like feel, because it's not like rendered 3D or anything all the way around. It's like really good looking sprites in a really good lush looking background. Anyways, and the soundtrack is by Rush Jet 1, who I'm actually a fan of. And so yeah, he did a great job in this one too. I've actually I don't think I've heard him do a fantasy soundtrack. So it's got that kind of like really fancy Game Boy Color type of sound. So it's a little bit 8-bit. I think it probably is all the way 8-bit, knowing the way he does things. But yeah, it's just like full of those like awesome arpeggio chords and like great melodies, and soundtrack is also available separately. So I definitely recommend listening to it. So yeah, like I said, apart from that, like it's really just things like it's getting into dungeons and solving puzzles to get to the next room. Like it's a little bit Zelda, it's a little bit Castlevania in a way. And it's all about like using like the right spell for the right situation. And on top of like just the wand spells, which you can scroll through really easily with the L button, like so you can drop a block and then immediately switch over to the bubble so that you can do a a really tricky jump. And they add in really tricky jumps, so it's very satisfying to actually do those. Like there's bits in the game that look like you're not supposed to be able to do them yet, because they seem kind of like they're like, oh, I don't think I can actually get up there. But if you actually do like a pixel perfect thing, then you can actually jump up there. And that's actually another thing that I really like in this game, is that it has a lot of secrets. There's a lot of like invisible walls or like hidden breakables and things like that. And every section of the map, which the map, by the way, is straight up Metroidvania. It's, that map. Everybody knows that map. Any modern Metroid or Castlevania or like style of game like that. So it's got that, and in each section you can actually highlight it, and it will tell you the percentage of secrets you found in just that area. Nice. So that's helpful. It's really helpful. Like it really propels the adventure, I think. And so apart from that, story's better. There's more characters now, including some characters that bought their way in through Kickstarter. I considered it, but I didn't. I might have missed getting my name in the credits too, because I forgot to fill out the online form. Whoops. Proud of you. Whatever. I got the like most regular name in the world. Plus it's a name that's actually in video game development, so people will just get confused. Just take credit for the other guy's work. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this is just like, this game feels like what every, much bigger budget, like, I think the word that people use, maybe derisively, is like indie darling platformers. This is like the kind of game those aspire to be, because so much like sincere hard work went into this game, and every bit of it shows. So this game is like just chef's kiss quality. as far as, and you feel it everywhere in this game, like as you play it, like everything was just like looked after and cared for. So I really, really appreciate that, because you don't see that as much in the under $20, set.
No. Well, then $18 on it, your official verdict?
Absolutely worth it. Every penny. I paid more than that for it just to get my name in the credits, and I didn't even bother to fill out the form. This is a project I always believed in, so maybe I'm slightly biased, but actually putting my hands on it and playing through it, it's every bit as good as I expected it to be. So please go out and check this one out.
Cool.
Every damn penny.
Pernell, you checked that one out on Steam, didn't you?
I did, and I freaking adore it. Like, I actually like it better than the Alwa's Awakening. Like, it's a great game.
It's an improvement on the old game, actually. Yeah, for real.
Nice. Hopefully they bring it to more platforms. So fingers crossed. Next game to talk about is called Overcrowd, a Communte Em, developed and published by SquarePlay Games, released October 6th on Steam for $19.99. Design and build the most efficient metro stations known to man. Excavate, expand, set staff priorities, and manage the commuter flow. Overcrowd is a 2.5D management tycoon simulator set below the bustling city of Lubden Town. Paul, tell us about Overcrowd.
So the first thing that I need to address is that Overcrowd was made by a husband and wife team, and we all know how much I appreciate games that are literally just done by one or two people.
Yeah.
Especially when those games could rival the best of simulators. You would think that a simulator built around building a train station would be pretty low key. It should be pretty simple. It doesn't seem like there could be a lot of options for what to have there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet somehow, I just had a cat walk across in front of me. Somehow Overcrowd manages to be on par with something more complicated like SimCity, or some of the later roller coaster tycoons, where you just really had a lot that you had to take care of and manage at once. When you're building your station, you need to take into consideration that there are 4 levels of dirt, basically, that you can build on, and you need to take into consideration how many levels you've gone down, and what that means for the way that your customers are going to move around the station. Do they need stairs? Do they need alternative routes? Where do you need to put things so that people aren't getting crowded, or so that things aren't breaking down because they're all using one gateway instead of using the other? It's complicated. This is one of the most difficult simulators I have played, and I love this shit. I play these things all the time. Like, these are just black hole time sucks for me. Okay? The moment you're like, do you want this simulator? I'm like, I'm so fucked. Nothing gets done. Yes. And so I spent a lot of time with Overcrowd, and the majority of my time with it was, how do I not have a turnstile break down every 30 seconds? It's a lot more difficult than I was expecting. And I think that difficulty gets ramped up by the fact that the game doesn't really do a great job of explaining different, like, it'll tell you, oh, press T to center your camera. If you, I didn't use, when I'm playing simulators on the PC, I don't use the controller. So I didn't test it for controller functionality. So, like, it'll tell you, click on this tab to do this task or whatever. But it doesn't really tell you, like, oh, you can press this to rotate the item, or you can, it's not as crystal clear as it could be, and it takes a lot of trial and error, which just resulted in me getting frustrated when things weren't looking the way I wanted, and I just scrapped the whole run and build it and try again. That means you don't get very far because it does break down into different days and different challenges. Yeah, close enough. That didn't sound right for some reason, and I can't put my hand on why, but there it is. So it can be really difficult when you're like, okay, I know I just need to do this one challenge, but at the same time, you're still trying to get a good score for it and like do well and not have your turnstiles break down constantly. I broke a lot of turnstiles.
I can tell.
So you need to worry not just about like, oh, how are people moving around, but you've got basic janitorial things to be concerned with. You need to have generators to power your station. Then you got to have gas for the generators. So you got to have like somebody to carry the gas to the generators. You've got to deal with, there's going to be trash. And then how are the trash bins going to get taken out? There's a lot to think about. And I find it really impressive, but also quite a bit overwhelming. And I think that makes a game like Overcrowd kind of put up a barrier against new players to simulators. Like, it seems all cutesy and adorable, and it is. It's really well illustrated and animated. I really like the art style of it. And that could be really alluring to somebody who's like, well, I don't know if I like a game about building train stations, but I'm willing to try. And then they get in there and they're like, holy shit, what's all this simulation stuff? Because there are just a shit ton of menus. There are a ton of options. There's a ton of things that you need to keep your eye on at all times. And it can be really stressful and overwhelming, even for somebody who's experienced. This might be the craziest thing anybody has ever said in a review, but I kind of wish they'd scale it back just a little.
Wow.
Yeah, like you have too much game. Because I think even for somebody who like me who plays a lot of this, there were still times where I was like, holy shit, I just didn't know I was supposed to be watching that. And something would go awry. Like, there needs to be at least some degree of automation where the game will handle things on its own so that you're not actively micromanaging every tiny detail. Because once you're lost in that, you kind of lose the scope of the actual challenge itself. So I think I'm the first person ever to bitch that maybe you should scale things back a little. But other than that, I think it's really fun. It's just really hard.
No.
And yeah. Go ahead.
$20 on it. What do you think of it?
I'm gonna roll with a recommended try it, because as I said, it's really complicated for new players. And that makes it a little harder to be like, yeah, everybody should check this out, because no, if you don't have some kind of basis in playing something like SimCity or Tropico or something that requires you to like really nitpick details, you're in trouble, because that's exactly what Overcrowd is going to expect of you.
Gotcha. Moving on, another, what I would guess, not noob-friendly game to talk about is called WARSAW, developed by Pixelated Milk, published by Crunching Koalas, released October 2nd on Xbox One, Switch, and PS4 for $19.99. WARSAW is a challenging, turn-based tactical RPG set in the ruins of a besieged city during the closing months of World War II. Lead your ragtag team of insurgents through the historic streets of the occupied Polish capital to witness firsthand the desperate fight for freedom. Pernell, this one sounds happy. Tell us about it.
Oh, it's so wonderful. Everyone's so happy here. No, fuck no, it ain't no freaking happy. This game is very, very somber, and I honestly think that that's kind of the intent, given the nature of the plot, and the setting. So let's just get that out of the way. You're not going to play this to feel good. Though I guess you kind of could, because you're actually trying to be heroic and liberate your homeland. So the idea is that you are portraying the role of a group of Polish residents in Warsaw towards the end of World War II, and you're pushing back against, I can't remember the exact thing, because it's not the Nazis in this case. It's actually, I want to say it's almost, because they're sandwiched between Russia and the Nazi regime, and they're basically trying to fight back against the occupants in their homeland. And the way this is done is through a series of a very simple loop, simple in the concept, but difficult in the execution, depending on how far in you get. But the execution becomes a matter of starting with you being in your base, and in your base, you have a number of, like functions that you can maintain there. You can recruit new soldiers by selecting the recruit option. If there's anyone recruitable, you can pay to do that. You can check your supplies by going to the supply camp, and what the supply check is that the actual item supplies is the currency in the game, and you can use it to trade for bullets, which ultimately kind of end up becoming your lifeline of sorts, and I'll get into that in a few. Health kits, flares, and other items that'll help you out on missions. There's like a priest for you to resurrect characters, a nun for healing characters, and then so on and so forth. So a few more things that I'll get into in a second too. So the next part of the loop is going to the mission board and choosing a location with which to engage in a mission. So you can do a normal mission for the game itself, or you can go for like an excursion, which is just you seeking out supplies to get, a serious need, because there's always like a need for supplies where you pretty much pay to go out and get them. But the main need of the game is the mission board, where you go and there's like 5 different zones in WARSAW that you can proceed to. Each of those zones has its own morale that you need to keep up. Morale being like, keeping the people willing to fight. And the way it works out is that you have to choose one of those different sections. And usually each of those, there's like a couple that have a particular mission that you need to engage in. These are randomly chosen, by the way. So it's not like there's a narrative that you're following or anything like that. It's just a structure of gameplay. You choose a location based on the mission that's there. And the mission tells you how long it's going to take to complete it in a number of in-game days. In-game days because there's a very specific number of days to the game, being 65. Spoiler, I never got that far because death will hit you in the face like a sack of hammers.
Nice.
Anyway, you'll choose a mission, you'll choose a location, and then it also will tell you on the screen the income that area is providing you with and the number of days like that it takes to get to get to that point for supply. So, for example, if a location has high morale, it might pay you like 10 supplies a day, and if it has low morale, it might pay you 4. So obviously, what that means is you want to keep morale high to keep getting income to fund the resistance. Once you choose a location, you will go there, and then what ends up happening is the game will bring up a sort of top-down map. Nothing too exquisite or elaborate. You are portrayed by a circular disc, and you are basically using the left thumbstick to maneuver the disc around a map of the city, that district in the city. And there's like little bits of like lights flaring going off, like bullets going between windows in certain areas. I would have to kind of give it like a sort of visual, like a sense of like visual change as you're moving around animations. But for the most part, you're moving around a stable map. Now, as you're doing this, every once in a while, a few icons will pop up on the screen. There are, let's say, 4 different icons you can generally see. There's the barricade icon, which means you can't walk past it. If you see a barricade, it blocks your path. And keep in mind, most of the time, these do not display until you come up on them, unless you use an item like a flare to reveal things. But for the most part, you got to get up in it to see it. So there's the barricade, which you can't walk past. There is a civilian icon, where if you come across a civilian icon, it'll generate like a sort of random event where it'll give you a scenario, and then you choose one of the available answers and hope for the best possible outcome. Sometimes it's just a matter of gut feeling, which is the best choice. Other times they will do like a sort of stat check where like your intuition has to be high enough for that result to be successful. Or do your diligence. And then once you select it, one of your party members can be selected, and depending on how high their stat is, that'll determine how successful you are. And sometimes that can yield you like more supplies, maybe a new character, experience points, and other times it can yield not so great results. So mind your shit. You might find yourself in a bit of a pickle. And then third thing you can find is a supply crate. And no rocket science there. If you find a supply crate, you can crack it open and take its meaty contents in the form of bullets and first aid kits and whatever have you. Whatever's in the box is yours now. Finders keepers. And unfortunately, the last thing is enemy units. Enemy units in this game come in 2 forms. One where they're just kind of stationary, and if you walk up on them, you can trigger a battle. And then ones that are actually looking for you. The ones that are looking for you, if they are hidden, if they pop up while you're in their line of sight, it may generally trigger a battle immediately, which kind of sucks because there have been times where I'm like, I'm going to sneak around these guys, and then boom, I get into a battle because the guy spotted me. Like, where you go? So if you end up in that situation and they immediately get into a battle, you're stuck. But sometimes they'll have a line of sight and you can kind of like sneak past as they're blinking, which is indicated by like the red circle and kind of like shading out a bit and they're phasing back in. And in case they're blinking, you can kind of sneak by. Or use the camouflage item and just walk right past them because screw that. It's camouflage time. But in the unfortunate incident you do find yourself in a kerfuffle, battle will begin. And the way this plays out is actually kind of cool. I like battles in this game. It takes place on a 4x2 grid. 4 on the left, and 8 tiles on the left and 8 tiles on the right. Left side being your team, right side being the enemy team. You have up to 4 different abilities on all of your characters. And for every character on your side, that is 1 action you can perform on a turn. Same goes for the enemy side. They got 5 enemy units. They get 5 actions per turn. And every character gets 3 stamina points. And for every action they perform, it could take 1 to all 3 stamina points. And which point, so you kind of want to balance this up. If you got for example, you've got an action that does like only takes 1 stamina point, you can use all of your actions just using that attack or ability until it wears off, until you run out of stamina, if you feel like it. But then every turn you generate 1 stamina, so the last thing you want to really do, if you can help it, is burn out a character's abilities in case you might need them later. So there's a certain finesse and jump between characters and choosing the right actions to kind of carry the battle. And actions are determined by 2 things. 1, the type of weapons you have equipped on the character, because the weapons bring not only stats in a sense, but they also bring different attack types. And the attacks are based around 2 things. 1, where you're positioned on the map, whether the character, and 2, where the enemies are positioned. So it might be a character if they're standing right in the front, they can attack enemies all the way in the back. But if they're not in the front, then they can't do the attack. So there's going to be a little bit of element there. And the other way to get attacks is through spending experience points back at the base to earn those attacks and then equip them on the character. So you will be basically taking your characters, recruiting sets of teams to go out into the field to get into battles and hopefully fulfill missions, preferably with as few battles as possible. And you'll be then taking those spoils of experience points back to base to get new skills. Oh, and I forgot to mention, during battles, there are also generally 2 sub-tasks that you can fulfill, such as don't use a certain amount of long-range ammo. Actually, there's 2 things I didn't mention, but I'll finish this one. Just don't use a certain number of long-range ammo shots or do a certain amount of damage in 1 attack. And if you can perform those actions and complete them, you'll get bonus experience in the fight. And you're going to want as much bonus experience as you can get because that stuff is like liquid gold in this game. But at the same time, there comes a certain balance between knowing when it's just not worth trying to fulfill that goal and just surviving the battle, or saying, no, I can do this and I can get that experience. Let's just get this done. But the other thing I forgot to mention is in regards to those attacks. In addition to the aforementioned placement of your character and enemy character determining the attack, the other element that factors in is the ammo. So earlier I mentioned supplies and spending supplies to get stuff at the shop and the base. Well, one of those things is bullets. You have long-range ammo, short-range ammo, and heavy ammo. And each attack uses a certain number of a specific type of ammunition. So you might find yourself in situations where you might want to spam that super powerful attack, but each use of that super special attack requires 10 heavy ammo. And you only have 40 heavy ammo, which means when you run out, you're out of that attack. And every attack that uses heavy ammo is also nullified because you don't have the ammunition to pull it off. So the game will incentivize you to balance and conserve ammo sometimes, or otherwise, if you're in a situation where like you're outgunned, which you will find yourself in. Citizens fighting tanks, yeah, that happens. And when that happens, you might just kind of unload everything you got, just the hopes of surviving the skirmish. So just be ready for that action. For the most part, that is the loop of the game. At the end of every mission, when you complete it, you get a tally, see how the morale of the district took, how it dealt, and your stats for that level. And then it'll generally give you a mission, like a final mission of consequence at the end, where like it'll give you a scenario in the game, you pick a choice, and based on the choice, something will happen, like reward or not so rewarding. And then you go back to base, resurrect who you can. Hopefully you don't have to resurrect anybody because you're a great general. We'll have to resurrect people. You could, again, try to recruit more people, check your ammo, review your characters, and change their, spend their experience points on perks and skills. Perks being specific things like, burn defense up 5%, things like that. Just passive abilities. And then go into the skirmish and battle once again. Get back out in the fold. The main issue about this game that anyone could possibly have, in my opinion, is a few things. One, if you can't handle unpleasant scenarios, which again, this kind of is, because for those who are familiar with history, this did not go well for these guys in the end.
I mean, if you're buying a game called WARSAW, you kind of have to know what you're getting into.
This is very true. That's a good point. Like, don't come in as expecting a smile time ending because, well, it gets rough. But you can handle it. You can do it. But I think in that regard, there's something nice about that, too. The fact it's like, hey, not every game is going to be sunshine and farts. And this is kind of a realistic take on war in the sense that, yeah, it's a game, and you're not actually going to truly feel like the weight of the scenario. But I can appreciate games where you actually don't want to lose units and you feel bad if somebody dies. Even if it's like a roguelike like this is, in a sense. You still feel bad when someone dies in your unit because it's like a kid. It was a kid who lost his family, and he's like, I want to fight in the resistance. And he gets killed by a dog. That's very sad. I don't care where you're from. But the game itself still carries that merit. And the other part of it is, again, that earlier mentioned loop. It's a very specific structured loop. You're not going to go out and do a bunch of crazy side missions, though technically you can run around and look for chests and stuff on some of the maps, so long as you don't run out of stamina, because if you run out of stamina on a mission, that's game over too. So don't dawdle. Get the shit done. But as long as you're okay with that loop and the somberness of the game, I think it's a solid buy. If you're a fan of Darkest Dungeon, I wouldn't say that's a 1-to-1 you got to buy this, but I think it would add a few notches to the desire to try it belt, because they definitely got influenced and inspired by Darkest Dungeon.
Nice. I know Root Beer was saying that they love Darkest Dungeon, was hoping this one was good, so it sounds like this one is a winner if you were into that one.
I think so. Honestly, I had a great time with this game.
Cool. All right. Next game to talk about is called Dragon Lapis, developed by exe-create, published by Kemco, released October 2nd on Xbox One and Windows 10 for $14.99. Lucas, a royal knight serving as a guard, little does he know, in fact, a descendant of the hero who once sealed the gold and silver dragons in human form. Nonetheless, when tragedy strikes, he soon sets out on an adventure to save the world. Chris, tell us about this one.
Alrighty. So, So to clear something up, whenever you first asked me if I wanted to do Dragon Lapis, I was like, okay, I've heard of this one, and I checked my Switch, and I didn't have it on Switch, so I was like, where have I seen this one before? And so I actually looked through our episode archives. I reviewed it 2 years ago for the 3DS.
Ah.
Yeah, so I have played this one before.
Well, how does it hold up on Xbox or on, Xbox and Windows 10? And I think they brought it to Switch and PlayStation as well. I don't have
it out on? I don't know.
I don't have the date on. I think it was the same week, but I don't have all the information. I'm terrible at my job. What I'm saying.
I've got all those, anytime they come up, I don't even pay attention to what they are. I just put them on my wish list and wait until, the stars align, and I'm like, okay, it's time to buy another Kemco game.
Anyways, no, it's not on Switch. It is. I think it is on PlayStation. I'm looking this shit up.
That's okay. What this is, I'll explain while you're doing that. Since I'm reviewing the game in this time that we're talking. Anyways.
This show sucks.
This show's great. What are you talking about?
I concur.
What?
I was like, I concur.
With whom?
This is some good tea.
Wow.
All right.
I think it's a great show, too.
No.
This is a show?
Yeah. Wait, what?
Ritual, but
this is terrible. No, it's not on. I thought this one was on PlayStation and Switch as well. I must have my emails mixed up. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. That's
okay. It seems that Kemco is taking the approach of releasing their mobile to, stuff. Well, 3DS notwithstanding, they because that was years ago. It seems like when they're kind of catching up with their back catalog, they do go to Windows and Xbox first, and then they like move it on to PS4 and Switch a little later. I noticed that like a couple of the games that I had reviewed way in the past, like on Steam or on 3DS, had gone that way. You know, they'd show up on Windows 10. Not the hit point ones, though, just the exe-create ones.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. So speaking of, this is a Kemco published game that was developed by exe-create, which, you know, if you've seen one exe-create game, then you know what they look like. Except for a couple of titles that kind of act as an 8-bit throwback, in a sense. And that all started with Dragon Sinker, which I've stated a few times at the time was my favorite Kemco exe-create game because it I just like the personality of it better. I like the different systems in play. You know, they kind of overloaded you with characters, which you either like or don't like. It has the Suikoden effect of like lots of characters, but only these 4 get actual story. Like, you know, the guy, the elven healer that you picked up in this one town doesn't have a lot of weight in the story by the time you get to the end. Nevertheless, I loved Dragon Sinker and actually beat it. And, you know, I loved it for like both its, you know, hail to the old like school Dragon Quest and old Final Fantasy like stylings, and also the fact that they got Ryuji Sasai to do the soundtrack, which he is the composer for the badass themes in Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. So yeah, he's the guy that did all the metal songs there, and he's back for this game. So I actually didn't know that on the 3DS version. I seemed puzzled at the similar but different soundtrack because it does sound a little different this time around, but it is the same composer. So I'm extremely happy now, as I was then, about the soundtrack on this, and that kind of puts it. You know, well, all the Kemco exe-create games actually do have great soundtracks, but this one is specifically like an 8-bit throwback using an actual composer from the, you know, early 90s. So I'm very happy about that. So the game itself looks like Dragon Sinker, is kind of based in the Dragon Sinker universe, and there might even be some what do you call it, like cameos, as you will, and some straight up like enemies just from that game. So like if you've played Dragon Sinker, this game's going to look very familiar to you. And then there was another game they came up with in the interim called Alvastia Chronicles, which also looks like this and also has the giant gumbo of characters. And this one, however, actually keeps it to 4 characters. But here's the thing. Instead of introducing many characters and many different classes so that you can like build your balanced party and, you know, have a magic party and have a attack, you know, party and then like switch between them or use them all at once, which is what Alvastia Chronicles has you do. It has you throw in 12 characters, including filing cabinets and houseplants. Literally.
That's what I loved about Alvastia Chronicles. That one was...
Yeah, Alvastia Chronicles jumped the shark in the best way. I recommend that game too. Anyways, this one instead introduces a job system. So now you've got your 4 characters, and they're 4 consistent characters. You know, you've got your heroic hero, your lady who's actually an ancient dragon, the gold dragon who's in competition with the silver dragon, but she's in human form now, and you have to collect the dragon lapis in order to help her regain her powers. But she's got the ego of an ancient dragon, so that's kind of her quirk. And every Kemco exe-create game has that set of characters. You know, your heroic hero, you're always a male protagonist, your second in command, who's always a lady, and she's always quirky in some way. She's got a quirk. And then 2 other characters who are there. Literally, I love, it's almost like they've become self-aware, because the third character is a 35-year-old mercenary. That's kind of the only thing you know about him for a long time, who joins you because he lost his job. Because his the person who hired him disappeared, so he's like, well, I need money, so I'm going to follow you around. The 4th character is, of course, a witch who is, you know, got her own problems, and, you know, all problems in the game can, of course, be solved by, you know, all problems are exactly located inside of a town and can be solved by going to the nearest dungeon and doing things. And yeah, you go in there, you light up some pentagrams on the floor like a normal thing, and fight through the battles. The battles are done in old school Final Fantasy style. Characters on one side of the screen, enemies on the other side of the screen. The thing that like kind of makes this one a little different is that both weapons and character growth are handled a little bit differently. So weapons now, instead of it being straight up like this sword has plus 12 damage, and so you equip it and you got plus 12 damage, and then you use that until you find the one that does plus 14 damage. This game actually has weapons and armor and accessories give you percentages. So your first sword is a 10% boost in whatever your base attack is. This is important because in order to grow your base attack, you do what is called the plate system. And to date, like I said, I reviewed this 2 years ago and mentioned this, but to date, I still haven't seen this show up in any other Kemco exe-create games. So they give you, so each character, of course, has jobs, and each job comes with the ability to equip plates. And each one is kind of a micro version of the Final Fantasy X spear system. So it's got little lines with little dots, and like you follow the lines and unlock the dots, and each dot gives you more and more. You get like a sword plate, and that has a bunch of stuff having to do with swords that you unlock, and they all get their own special set of points. So you get your experience points for your level, you get your but you get your EP, which I don't know what EP means, but your EP points are for unlocking things on the plate. And, it's not one of those things where you like choose a path and stick to that. You actually are trying to unlock everything on the plate and then throw away the plate and put on a new one so that you can get everything there. Because once you're done with the plate, it just disappears. And then, like I said, you have blank spots for plates that, as you grow in your job level and things like that, then you get more and more. And so that's like a way to kind of do things. And it adds a little more of an interaction and a little more control in growing your character in which direction. Because that, if you want, you can pile on a whole bunch of like magic plates onto a warrior and have the warrior be a really good mage. That's totally up to you. So it kind of gives you a lot of customization. Yeah, there's more customization both in changing your job and also boosting your stats in whichever directions, whether congruous or not, that you want. So yeah, apart from that, storyline is usual Kemco exe-create type stuff. It will satisfy a JRPG player who is not looking for something too different. But it's charming, it's fun, it's got, good music galore, and it's got those 8-bit graphics, and it's got lots and lots of, character growth options, as well as of course, the lottery system, which is they brought from Dragon Sinker, and it's also, popularly in some other things. However, in the PC version versus the 3DS version, some items have been taken out of the lottery pool or the special item store, which you get another set of points randomly from battles, usually 10 at a time, and that can go towards either straight up purchasing an item, or it can go towards trying to win some really good items. And the purchase store is a little different from the 3DS version because some of the best items from that store are now paid DLC.
Yeah.
Whereas the 3D, yeah. And it's stuff like no enemy encounters or triple your experience points. It's like game-breaking stuff. So it's kind of okay that it's not right there in the core game.
Yeah, and those are the usual things we see with Kemco RPGs. We see the same microtransactions with all of them, so...
Exactly, yeah. So it's one of those things where if you do want to pay to break the game, you can. Or if you are doing just fine, then you can just play through it on normal. And if you want a little bit more challenge, you can throw it on super hard. There's only 2 difficulty levels that I could tell, so a little something for everybody here. But if you want to open your wallet and, not run into random encounters anymore, totally can do that.
Well, overall $15 on this one. What are you thinking of it?
I like it. For $15, I think it's a good buy it. And like I said, it's if you are trying to get into Kemco RPGs, through some way. This one is kind of unique in the set, but at the same time, it does like throw in some familiar storyline tropes and like things like that. This is actually a pretty good one to start on, even though it's kind of a sequel to Dragon Sinker. But because it's really good and it doesn't overwhelm you with characters, and it's the only one of the 8-bit set that acts that way. So for that reason, yeah, I would give it either a recommended try it. If you are just getting into the Kemco universe, but if you are already a fan of Dragon Sinker and Alvastia Chronicles, I give it a buy it because it's a worthy successor.
Cool. I picked this one up because I pick up every Kemco game.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Sticking with the RPG theme, the next game to talk about is called Ninth Dawn 3 Shadow of Earthil, developed and published by Valorware, released October 6th on Xbox One, Switch, PS4, and PC for $15.99, iOS and Android for $9.99. A huge open-world RPG dungeon crawler packed full of content with over 270 monsters, a fun card game to play with 180 shiny cards to collect, and over 1,400 unique items to hoard. Increase your attributes and skills for your character, your companion, and all your pets to become an ultimate team. Pernell, tell us about Ninth Dawn 3.
That sounds about right there, because it's literally a game about doing stuff and collecting stuff to do more stuff. It taps into that whole looter exploration concept of game that's become really popular over the years, and for good reason, because it taps that delicious, sweet Skinner box mentality. And this game, I feel, does it kind of well. So I'm going to get this out of the way immediately. If you go based off of screenshots and stuff, it might not be the best way to go about it, because I can tell you that screenshots didn't sell me on it. But when I was reviewing it proper and playing the game, I noticed that there's like a nice, almost like papercraft style of animation to the characters and enemies. So, like when your character runs around and then decides to turn around, you make them turn around, they turn like paper.
Yeah.
So it's like it kind of folds in a little bit, and then it's like, here you go. So I was like, wow, I like that effect actually. And that from that point on, like I liked pretty much the animations of the monsters and just that whole style, like just stuff like this kind of sliding around the screen. Anyway, talk about the game beyond the look. So the general idea is that you're exploring the world, fulfilling quest after quest after quest. I'm not going to learn the plot because I barely understand it, because I kind of didn't care. It was just like, hey, can you go retrieve 12 pelts? Yes, I can. Give me them. Give me those experience points. Or give me that item. Basically, you go off into the wild. One thing I like about this game is that the world is all interconnected, so there's no like. The loading transitions only take place if you go to like the underground dungeons and stuff, but even those transitions are very fast. But you essentially will go out into the wild, and while you're out and about, monsters may show up. And the way you fight them is by using the right thumbstick, kind of like a twin stick shooter, and you just point the thumbstick in the direction you want to swing. And if you got a projectile attack, you'll swing projectiles. If you have melee attacks, you'll just start swinging. And if enemies come into your range, which you'll know because the game kind of gives you like a sort of like cone, like light cone, to indicate, where if enemies are walking into your line of sight, then they'll take damage until they eventually die. As a result of this, battles tend to become a bit of a battle of attrition, where it's just like a matter of like who kills who first. So generally, as long as you got decent equipment, the answer is you'll kill them first. And there's a lot that you can equip. There's like 6 ring fingers, 2 hands, a bunch of relics, and some like a crossbow of sorts. So just typical stuff like a general RPG of this type. Lots of equipment items. They all have general stat, whether this relates like physical attack or magical attack, physical defense or magical defense, whether or not it's heavy or light, the speed that the weapon even attacks in the case of weapons. So like if you put, say for example, a fast weapon in one hand and a slow weapon in another, and you just let the attack go, you can actually watch the animation of the speedy weapon doing like attacking 3 times, and the slow weapon finally getting like some damage and just like swings in there. So like you can even see the speed of the attacks as it goes in the form of attacking stuff. You can also equip like shields and stuff. And then the last few things is like sometimes they'll have a unique buff, such as like a bonus to like a bonus to attack, or like a bonus elemental attack, crafting bonuses, experience gain bonuses, or whatever. And then lastly, buff slots, which you can use basically crafted gems to slot in a la Diablo to give the weapons various buffs or armor various buffs. So you'll be getting down with that. The game also has a ridiculous amount of crafting available to it in the form of like alchemical crafting or cooking crafting, in which case the game takes you to a little bit of a mini game where as long as you found a recipe, whether from a quest or otherwise, you can pretty much play this mini game where you're trying to keep a dial in the middle of the screen to complete it and do it well. Of course, even if you complete it and do it well, if your alchemy stat or whatnot isn't high enough, you still have a high chance of failing. So good luck with that. I burned through a lot of freaking ingredients thinking, I'm doing all right. I got a good. You failed. You just lost 10 potatoes. Like, thanks for nothing, asshole. I appreciate that. But
I didn't even screw with the crafting in this game. I just focused on dungeon crawling and killing monsters and that goddamn card game. Oh my God, that card game is so addictive.
The card game is actually, really cool. So the way it works is it plays a little like Triple Triad did, in the sense that Triple Triad was a card game in Final Fantasy VIII. For those who are like, what is he talking about?
That was the best part of Final Fantasy VIII, by the way.
It really was. That game was addictive as hell. And honestly, like you said, Feud or whatever, I think it's called Feud with FY, is the game in this, and it's also fairly fun. The idea behind it is you get a plane of about 5 card spaces. You'll have 9 cards in your hand, and each card has an elemental property and 3 numbers printed at the top of it. 1 pointing to the left, 1 in the center, and 1 in the right. High numbers are good. Low numbers are bad. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. And the idea is that on that line of 5 card spaces, you can play one of the cards on a spot. And if a card is placed on top of it or to the side of it, and the number that is pointing to that card is higher, it takes it. So it's going to be like a bit of an area control game where you're trying to take as many cards as possible and maintain as many slots as possible. The card stats can go up to 3, so sometimes an element of playing it will be involving you like pretty much getting to the top of the stack so that nobody can take it, and then use like your really weak stack cards on the top so no one can actually counter it because, well, you're on the stack man. But it's one of those games where it's like, it's not complicated. It's fairly simple, but you'll still be trying to get deep with it as you're like, I got to build the best deck that's as difficult to counter as possible. You'll get cards from like beating opponents in the game. Because every time you beat somebody, you can steal one of their cards. And also like, there was another game I played like this too. Probably was Trails of Cold Steel 3 or something, but you can battle pretty much every person in the game in Feud. So as long as you have a deck and you see them, you can battle them. Another thing I kind of liked about the game, which I didn't expect, is that the game runs on a clock, so to speak. And depending on the time of day, shops will open and close. So you might be...
And day of the week.
Oh, yeah, I sucked at the day. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to move. But yeah, you're right. The day of the week kicks in there too.
Yeah, I tried to buy a sword on a Monday, and it's like stores only open Tuesday through Saturday. Motherfucker, I guess I'm sleeping.
Pretty much. You can sleep, but... And thankfully, that's kind of nice about it too, is like, the sleeping, from what I can tell, is there's no real penalty to it. It's just, if you sleep, of course, you're missing out on other things you might be doing during that time of the day. So it's just essentially like, is it worth sleeping or not? But I like that they didn't make it a penalty for you to do it. It's just, if you didn't get there in time, you can always go to sleep. But otherwise, the shop's running. And I like also that the characters actually have homes. Like, I've actually followed characters home from work. And they just go to their house and sit.
And they're like, it's shop time, or like, I'm home. Shop is closed. Leave me alone.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Like, it's a nice element to it. And honestly, the game works in a way where there's just a lot to freaking do. And quite frankly, I'll be surprised. I mean, I'm not going to say I'll be surprised because, I mean, technically people have as much free time as they got. So people will beat this game. But you'll be playing a while in order to do so.
Oh man, the achievements in this game, you're going to have to invest so much time for the completion on this one.
Oh, have you checked them out?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember any of them? Because I'm curious.
Collect everything, pretty much. Like, collect all the cards, collect all the, I think the abilities. Let me see if I could pull them up. They're ridiculous achievements. It is a crazy list.
This will be like, pretty much, if someone guesses, like, this will be the most rare achievement you've got. But like, yeah, and I didn't even mention that you can capture monsters too by basically setting traps on the ground and then luring the monster into the traps. Bam, it snaps and catches it, and then you walk up and hug it, and bam, now it's your monster, and the monster fights with you. So, and you can build up the monster troop. There's a lot going on with this game. But one thing I didn't notice, though, if you did, let me know, is that equipment has like heaviness and light ratings to it. And aside from just the element of the not attributes, but under your skills, I didn't notice any of that reference the weight of the armor, and I didn't really find myself noticing any sort of penalty for running around in heavy armor. So I wasn't sure if it was solely a level of just how proficient it is, because worth mentioning, actually very important to mention, is like, in addition to like having like your different attacks and all the equipment and stuff, there's also attributes, skills, and abilities. Attributes are things like, strength, dexterity, agility, strength, dexterity, endurance, intelligence, and wisdom. And you can level those up with points you get every time you level up. Each time you level, you get 5. You can dump them in and out, and each of those affect various elements of your stats. There's the skills. And skills are, I think it's a terrible name for it, honestly, because it's not really skills. It's just like that. It's bars that indicate how proficient you are at things. So there it should have been proficiencies. So there's like 6 pages worth of them. And the more you use certain things, like for example, there's like a proficiency in longswords. The more you use longswords to kill people, or monsters, the more that bar goes up. And the more proficient you are at it, the better you are at using it. That goes for weapon types, of which there are about 6. And then there's also, proficiencies and just other things like cooking food and the aforementioned, alchemy, jewel building. So you got that. And then you have abilities, which I thought was pretty interesting. Abilities they're more so perks than abilities. So kind of what they even call it that, but I digress. Unlike the other stuff, though, you level those up by way of getting what's called ability coins. And ability coins are hidden throughout various dungeons in the game. Usually you have to go out of your way a little bit to get them, but once you get enough ability coins, you can spend them to crack open these abilities. And you need to have certain stats from the attribute screen sometimes in order to unlock some of those abilities. But for the most part, it's get the coins and spend them there and get your ability upgrades. That could be things like, more hit points, higher attack power, better crafting, the ability to experience gain, bump your monsters. There's a lot going on with this freaking game, and you'll spend a lot of time on it if you choose to do so.
Especially if you want the completion, because I pulled up the achievement list. You want to hear some of these?
Yes.
Morph a single creature 50 times. Collect every shiny card. Unlocked all spells and abilities. Collect 10 million gold. Complete the hunting journal, the item journal, the fishing journal. Slay 10,000 enemies.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah, reach any skill level 100 in any craft, completed all alchemy recipes, cooking recipes, weaponsmith recipes, armorsmith recipes, jewelsmith recipes, magic weaving recipes.
There's a lot of shit to do here.
This completion is going to be insane. Complete all dungeons to 100%.
Yeah. Well, honestly, that'd be the one thing I can see myself wanting to do, because I like the idea of getting all the ability coins. So it's like, all right, I didn't get enough done. I better go find the last coin that's hidden in the dungeon, or open up all the treasure chests. So that I can get.
Yeah.
But
and the craziest part of this is a solo developer.
One person made this?
One person made this game.
Oh, that's pretty awesome then.
How crazy is that? This game is insanely huge, insanely deep, and it was made by a single person.
I can appreciate that thing, because I think this is a solid game. Like, it's one of those games where, like, there's a ton of games out there like it, so it's hard to say when you'll get to this specific one. But I do think that if you do choose to play it, it's a solid bid. Even the music is good. The only thing I don't like about the music is that it's kind of got that thing where music doesn't feel like it's specific to locations. It's just kind of like it kind of runs on a loop, and sometimes they'll change to a different track. But for the most part, though I don't really attach the music to any locations, the music itself is appealing. So I think it's orchestral even. So that's a bonus. Well, all in all, the game itself, I think, is a quality product. It's the one person thing just makes it nicer to me, because it just pretty much says, like, clearly he didn't cut any corners. He did it all himself. He made it for the best of his ability. So I think, honestly, if you're down with like looter, like I don't want to call it twin stick looter, but it actually kind of is. If you're into twin stick looting games, or if you're just into like looting games like Diablo, but you want just something lighter than that, this game is up your alley and a good time. And I think it even has like the opportunity to do co-op if you want. I just didn't. I swear I remember seeing an action where the guy said you can do co-op if you push a button.
Yep.
So
overall, $16. Your verdict?
I think it's a solid buy.
Yeah, I agree with that. The game is unbelievably deep. You can sink months, if not years, into this game, I think.
And I think it's worth noting that this, and the reason why I think I give it a buy is like, this is definitely a game where I'm not going to lie. When I first booted it up, I was ready to be like, yeah, whatever. This is going to be a quick and not a meh review of some sort. And then hours went by. Not even making that up. I went to bed at 2:00 this morning when I was supposed to go to bed earlier because I just kept playing it. That was on like my third time playing the game. And so I just booted up and just keep going. But it surprised me. I like it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Next game to talk about is called Area 86, not Commander 85. Developed and published by SimDevs, released October 7th on Xbox One for $9.99. Welcome to Area 86, a physics-based escape room puzzle game. The secret space station AI has gone rogue, and it's your task to stop it. Paul, tell us about Area 86.
So this isn't a game where you're playing on a computer. This is a game where you are controlling a robot. And it is essentially a series of escape rooms. And the goal is to get your robot through each room and on to the next. In order to do that, you need to solve some physics-based puzzles. The cat has turned on the printer now.
Nice.
Every time. Something. Every time.
I had to step away when Chris was doing a review because Potato turned on one of her electric cat toys that just, it's an arm that swings around with a cat toy, and it was next to the chair. So it's just.
That's the stuff.
We love our fur babies.
Oh, friggin' cats.
My printer's just over here. I'm like, I don't even know what he's printing out, but it's something. And clearly, it's important to him anyway.
Anyway, Area 86 is not a cat.
It's not a cat either, and it's not a printer. Although, I don't know.
Could be
there are printers in some of the levels. And you may or may not need to use the things that are in each room to solve physics-based puzzles. So, for example, there may be a switch on the wall. Not a Nintendo Switch, but like a button, for example. And you may not be able to get up to that switch to bump into it, to turn it on or off, as the case may be. So what do? Well, physics-based, right? There's boxes. Can you pick up a box? Sure. Can you throw a box? Sure. You don't have any arms as this little robot, but apparently that doesn't stop him. And so you can pick up the box and you can aim, and then you can aim at that button, throw the box, and open a door. And now you can leave and go on to another room. The puzzles get more and more intense, of course, because that's how escape rooms work. There aren't any kind of timers or anything. You do it all at your own pace. That also means, though, that there's not really, again, another game that just doesn't even want to tell you the basics of controls. It gives you the idea that you can pick up a box, but then never tells you what button does it. You just kind of randomly roll around pushing the buttons until it does something that you need it to do. And then you're like, oh, shit, that's how I do it. I didn't realize I could throw the box until I got frustrated because I couldn't jump with the box where I needed to go. And then I held the button for too long out of frustration. And I was like, wait a second. What's that fucking line for? Oh, I can throw it. And at no point was it like, hey, hold the X button and see what that does. It was just like, here's your room. Good luck. A little more information is good. I get that they want you to like explore and figure that shit out, but I can't help but think of how many times I got stuck and got annoyed and just turned the game off and come back to it later, and how that wouldn't have happened if it was just like, press X a little longer. You know? Like, just hold the button.
No.
And then see what happens. Because telling me to hold the button to throw things doesn't tell me that throwing it at this switch in this order opens the door. It just tells me I can throw things. In addition to that, when I was playing the game, I was a little frustrated at the fact there's no sensitivity options for your aiming. And never could I quite get the item I was trying to throw when I needed to do that. It just seems like I could never really quite get it where I wanted it to be. I was always either a couple inches to the left or a couple inches to the right, but never right where I wanted to be. Didn't matter how I moved around or what I did. Maybe 1 out of every 20 times I tried to line something up, would I get it like I wanted it. I would like to see some accessibility options with sensitivity and aiming just to make that a little easier. My fingers are crooked. Humor me. That shit's really hard for me. Even as somebody who frequently plays games that requires aiming precision, they usually have some kind of accessibility. Area 86 didn't have any. I'm sure that can be a difficult thing to program. I'm sure of it. But it is important if you're going to have these kind of puzzles. At least, thankfully, like I said, there's no timers or anything. Take your time going through it, explore. There's different little robots and all kinds of secrets that, you can save the other robots. There's secrets to find and just poke around and have a good time with. And I encourage you to do that, but also just make it viable to go through it and get it done if that's what you want to do. Without having to sit and stare at it and go, I don't know what button to push.
I'll give them bonus points. They have some unique achievements in the game, like smash every possible glass in Chapter 1 or score 86 points in basketball overtime. So I like when developers have fun with the achievements.
Yeah, you can spend an insane amount of time just playing basketball.
Which but is also, what you're doing tonight.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
Well,
I don't have that achievement, though. That's for damn sure.
You'll get it.
Yeah.
$10 on Area 86. What do you think?
Again, it's another recommended try it. I'd just like to see a little polish in some of the things that I complained about addressed. But I think for its price, it justifies it. And it's fun and it's unique. And I think it applies to people like, if you like the escape test room type of gameplay like in Portals, but without the whole heavy mechanics of trying to like physically adjust how things are. If you just want like a Portal experience where you throw a box instead, then this is pretty solid for that. And I think it could apply to people who enjoy that kind of gameplay.
Cool. All right, final game to talk about tonight is called Outbreak Lost Hope, developed and published by Dead Drop Studios, released October 8th on PS4 for $12.99. Experience a mother's desperate search for her daughter in the midst of a nationwide epidemic. Sounds familiar. This story follows Gwen just after her harrowing escape from an urban center during the outbreak. A terrible accident causes her to get separated from her daughter Hope, and she has to fight the undead to survive and save her daughter. Serlina wrote in a review for this one, and this is what she's got to say. Good evening, SML friends and fam. It's Serlina, and this time I'm reviewing Outbreak Lost Hope for the PS4. Developed by Dead Drop Studios, Outbreak Lost Hope is a throwback to the horror game genre of the 90s, where you play as Gwen searching for your lost daughter, Hope, and also trying to dodge all these undead that want nothing more to do than eat your face. Let's get on with the review. Lost Hope is the latest in the Outbreak series I've had the pleasure of reviewing. If y'all been paying attention to my other reviews, then you know this series uses the control scheme and gameplay from horror 90s games. Each of the Outbreak games I reviewed thus far switches up the mechanics it wants to use. So in this entry, there's no tank walking, but Gwen's got that tank walk waddle. You have extremely limited inventory space starting out, only 4 slots, but the storage chest returns, as does the floppy disks and terminal save function. There are a couple of new additions in Lost Hope. First is your handgun is super weak and doesn't kill the zombies immediately, it only knocks them down. You can kill the zombie once it gets up again, but you have to pump a ridiculous amount of handgun bullets into it to do so. As such, the game really focuses avoidance and gives you the ability to sprint. The sprint doesn't last long, but often that burst of speed is enough to get you out of a tight situation. Secondly, you can upgrade your inventory space with pouches as well as get better weapons which kill the zombies much more effectively by finding small keys and opening locked suitcases. However, the keys are finite, so you really have to pick and choose what you'll open. For example, I found suitcases containing 2 pouches, a shotgun, shotgun shells, and a first aid kit. I only had 2 keys, so I really had to decide what would be good for me right then and there. The gameplay is largely reminiscent of the previous Outbreak games. The camera can move independently of Gwen, which I like. What I don't care for is Gwen's third-person view, as we are permanently looking over her shoulder from afar. I'll give her this. She's got a nice butt. Is Aki right in this?
It's all right.
Her character model is tight and well designed. The environment is all right, but it does look to be recycled from a previous game or two. This doesn't bother me, but I feel it should be mentioned. I like the fact that in this game you have to use the laser aim as well as the flashlight on your guns. You need that flashlight too because the game is dark as hell. There's no map, mini or otherwise, so you'll get turned around, but the paths are fairly linear, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Finally, I must say the writing in this iteration isn't that great. During the opening, I cringed, which is not good. Decent video game writing is practically invisible, but bad video game writing can and will pull you out of the immersion that you want your audience to have. Dead Drop, if you need some help writing things, holler at Serlina. She wants to help you, promise. Outbreak Lost Hope is available October 8th on the PS4 for $9.99, and should you... Actually, it's $12.99. Is it $9.99 or $12.99? Fuck. I thought it was $12.99. It might be $9.99. I'll have to double check, and I'm not gonna.
I'm seeing on Steam. It's $10.
It might be $10 on PS4 as well. Paul, do you remember what it was on Xbox?
No, not off the top of my head.
We're bad.
Might be able to look.
We're so bad at our jobs.
Yeah.
We are so bad. Again, this particular type of gameplay isn't for everyone, but I enjoyed my time with the game. I must admit that this is something I would normally steer clear of, but as I've gotten to play the games, I'm getting better. I made it further than I thought before I died. Maybe I can actually beat this one. I give it a very solid try it. Chris, what did you think?
Yeah, it's very, very close to to the which one was it? The Epidemic one. I have 4 of these things now, so I can't get the title.
Oh, it's on Xbox. It's $12.99.
Okay,
so it might be $12.99.
Yeah, and it's basically it kind of locks in to the one character. Textures look better, things generally look better, but yeah, it's generally kind of the same thing. It's you do get the storage, which is nice, but yeah, your actual person, if you there's a lot of skipping items because you just can't hold all the stuff that you need, and of course, since the zombies take so much to take down, then it does become a little bit of a trial that way. Of course, that's playing on the normal mode. The harder difficulties, of course, take all that stuff away from you too. So then you really are in trouble. I don't even know how people play these on the hard mode. But yeah, I generally agree with pretty much everything that's said. I don't know. It's an average, but I'm gonna say
cool.
Maybe I'm too cruel.
I don't remember the order that these released. I really don't. This may have been one of the earlier ones because I know the last one you guys are reviewing is the first game, just Outbreak.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Which will be in 2 weeks' time. So.
Right.
I don't know. Too many games. I can't keep track. Sorry, Dead Drop. We're terrible at our jobs. We know it.
I will say, though, of all of them, for some odd reason, I attached to Lost Hope, and it was my favorite out of all of them.
I think it looks the best. Yeah.
And if Aki were here, she could vouch for the nice ass on the character, I'm sure. Yeah. But yeah, that is it for this episode. We made it through another one. Everyone, thanks for being here, hanging out. Another big thanks to David Ventura of Ichigoichie for coming on, chatting Hexagroove and the video game industry and InNIS and Rockstar and Gitaroo Man and everything else. Oh man, we got to get him back on again. That was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have to get you two back on for that as well. Now that you've been here for his second visit, Pernell, you were here for both of them. Music, we got some more Gitaroo Man. We're gonna play a couple more songs from that. Does anyone have any final words to end the show?
I'm Gitaroo Man. God, I can't think of I think that is just the line from the game.
Oh, Gitaroo Man.
I just like that ending where he's the guy's You can never win in a million zillion.
Oh, yeah.
Chalius is all hell.
Yes, I can.
Works. Yes, I can. Why can't you? Because I'm Gitaroo Man. So good.
That whole exchange is bonkers. I love it.
Yes, it is. I loved it. Good game.